right now.
Yeah.
Though, as an interpreter, geez, man, you won't believe some of this stuff.
Really?
What?
Stuff going on.
I'm afraid he's trying to record my voice so he can get more lines.
We're not even recording.
No, we're not even recording right now.
No.
Do you? Would you like to record your whistle?
Right now?
Yeah, and I'll put it on the buttons here.
Oh, boy.
Hold on now. Hold on. Let me see if I could do this.
You may want to take the earphone off.
Is it that loud?
It's been hurt.
Is it going to be worse?
No, hey, hold on now. Yeah, well, what we're going to do is... Here, hold on,
I had
Kim.
to do a podcast when I was at Shepherd,
Yeah.
and I didn't realize I decided I was doing it on trains in West Virginia
Mhm.
on Robert C. Byrd.
Yeah.
Because we have all his papers from his years in office there. And our project was we had to take something from his project files and do a podcast. Well, I decided I was going to put my train whistle on it. Thing is, I didn't realize I had the volume up full blast. So he's flying to Las Vegas in an airplane, and he's got the iPod slid under his dinner tray. And next thing you know, my train whistle goes off, and he's jumping out of the seat, scares a woman beside him, reaching for the... and then I pulled Country Roads on it. He hated Country Roads.
All right, here, Cam. Just we're gonna just do a test, okay? When I point to you, you go. And guys, try to withhold your laughter until after it's done. Ready? Okay, try it again. Ready? Hold on. Okay. We're gonna try it one more time. I'm gonna lower this a little bit. All right, now you're gonna do it again. Do it like you did the first time. First one was better. Remember it?
All
All
right.
right, here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. There you go, Ken. Now you're on the board. Next time you come in, we'll talk about that.
Oh, my. You wasn't expecting. I did that one time. And they work at McDonald's, and we're not supposed to have cell phones in our pockets. I did it, and they all started telling me to pull my pants pockets out.
Why?
They thought I had my cell. They thought it was my cell phone.
Oh.
No. I thought they were accusing you of stealing something.
No.
This kid's crazy. He thinks he's a train. Pull out your pockets. What did you take from us?
I had a device on my phone.
Jesus loves me. Yes, he does. All right. Are you ready, Matt?
I'm ready.
All right. You ready, Eric?
I was born ready.
All right. Born ready. That's what I like to hear.
It's not true.
Oh. Well, that's
I was born a
disappointing.
baby. Babies can't do anything.
Ah, good one. All right, here we go, guys. You don't have to be as quiet as you were when David Martin was on the phone. Of course, don't steal a show from Matt. I'm talking to you, Cameron. But otherwise, feel free to laugh if something makes you laugh. If a thought comes out and you have a question or something, just shout it out, and then I'll pull you over to the microphone. Okay. All right, here we go, guys. We're gonna mark it there, mark it there, mark it and such, and here it is.
You're listening to Addressing Gettysburg.
Oh, hello, everybody. And we have such a treat for you today. Such a treat for me today and probably everybody else who's in the room. A lot of you who are studying to become a guide have probably heard the name Colonel Sheeds bandied about by current guides or other people. I don't know. And I happen to be friends with his grandson, Matt. And Matt and I go back to the year 2005, Anno Domini. And he was my insurance salesman at the time. And then we became friends, going out drinking and things like that. So Matt Sheeds is our guest today. Matthew, welcome to the show.
Well, welcome to you, Matt.
Well,
Eric
thank you.
and company.
Yes.
I have to say, I'm very, very much impressed with this high-rise facility that you have here.
Don't be fooled.
Yes.
So I was sitting in the green room, thinking about what I was going to say, hoping that I would meet one of your high-end.
One of the whack pack.
Well, no, not the whack pack. I mean, you have some high-end people. You have Sam Elliott.
That's right.
Bo Brinkman.
That's right.
Joseph with a Z.
Joseph.
Fuquay, right?
Right. Fuquay. Correct.
I practiced it. I don't
Yeah.
want him to call you later and,
Yeah.
and criticize.
Right.
But I met somebody much, much better than that.
Who?
I met the one and only Cam Mallow. He has made my day.
Cam Mallow. Here he is. And Cam, why don't you come up to the microphone since he called attention to you here? You come on up and say hi. Now, what is so exciting about Cam? Why did you want to meet him so much?
So, Matt and Eric, I've been telling you guys that I have really, really, really enjoyed your show.
Yes, thank
I just
you.
found it within the last month and a half.
On Facebook
on
is where you
Facebook,
found it first,
right.
yeah.
And I can tell you, anybody who's not a Patreon is an idiot.
Oh.
Because they need to be spending some money for this quality show. You get to hear wonderful interviews with Joseph with a Z.
With a Z.
And other stuff. But listening to your show within the last month and a half has brought me a lot of happiness.
Oh.
And I can tell you, my favorite of all guests so far is the one and only Cam.
Oh, wow. Wow, more than Joseph.
Well, Joseph's all pro.
He's a pro,
He's all
right.
pro.
But Cam is all real. He's all natural. Right, Cam?
Yes.
Yeah, now, so Cam, so for those of you who don't follow us on Facebook or don't know what we're talking about, we do, like, once or twice a week, we'll do a live show on Facebook where we talk about what's going on in Gettysburg today. And Cam popped by the studio last week on our first show that week and just floored us all with his stories, with his everything. Right, Cam?
Regaling us with tales of grown men dressed as monkeys and whatnot.
Exactly. Cam, so just real quick, just tell everybody about yourself.
Again, I'm from West Virginia.
By God.
Yep,
Couldn't
by
tell.
God, West Virginia. It's almost all I ever wear whenever I'm not in my work clothes.
It's true. You have your 7th West Virginia cap on again, and you've got a West Virginia T-shirt on.
Yep.
He did shower, though. He seemed to be smelling fresh, though, man.
I think he's got... He always smells fresh. I think he's got like 7 of those shirts, 7 of those hats, and that way... He doesn't have to
One
do
for
laundry.
every day of the
Yes,
week.
one for every day of the week. That's what I'm trying to say.
And on
So
the
anyway-
7th day, God created Cam.
On the 7th day, Cam did laundry. So you, so go ahead. You're from West Virginia. What do you do now?
Right now, I am working for the National Park Service in Washington, D.C. on the National Mall.
Okay.
Giving people information about the memorials, helping them around the park. With the ultimate dream goal is to getting up here at Gettysburg as a full-time interpreter.
Okay.
With the Park Service.
Okay. And what have you? So you're working down in DC now, but before DC, you were working up here on the maintenance crew, right?
Yep.
And then the year before that, you were a volunteer.
Volunteer here and at Antietam.
Give me one funny story about volunteering here? Can you do you have like one really good story, like an encounter with a tourist?
Just one.
Just one.
I actually don't because it was all, serious about.
How about this? Tell us the story about. Remember when you were working out in the field by the Bliss Farm, I think it was, and they dunked you in the garbage can. Oh, come on, tell it. This is when you're on the maintenance crew. Go ahead. This is a good story.
They just.
No, it was a hot day. You got to set it up. It was a hot day. It was like 90 degrees. You're out in the middle of the field, no shade. And what do you have? You big garbage can full of water to cool yourselves down, right?
Yeah, and they dunked me in it.
Okay.
Larry.
All right. That's Cam's song. All right, so they dunked you in the water and they grabbed you by the ankles and flipped you in?
No, they just poured some water on me.
Oh, see, you told it last time that they grabbed you by the ankles and flipped you in. And I was like, that's not good because you could drown that way. How are you going to get out of that?
I got out.
Bet you did. All right, well, Cam, thank you very much, and enjoy the show as we sit here and talk with Matt. Who are we? What? Go ahead.
So Cam, you spoke about Antietam.
Yeah.
If I could share just a quick story, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Cam had shared about a week ago about dressing up in a gorilla outfit or a monkey outfit to scare somebody. Is that correct?
Yep.
At school?
For fun.
Just a quick
fun.
story. So he did it for fun. Well, I know there's some controversy going on here in Gettysburg about running on the battlefield.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, and I'm not knocking the Park Service by any means.
No.
But there is an event that's held every year called the American Odyssey Relay. There are about 100 teams of 12 that come to Gettysburg every year. And what they do is they run from Gettysburg to Washington, D.C. I was saying to Cam when we were outside in the green room, I'd heard a rumor the one year that there was somebody that was dressed up as a gorilla jumping out in the middle of the night, scaring people on this American Odyssey relay. So fast forward to the first year that I did it, I'm running through Antietam. Now, Antietam grants the American Odyssey relay the opportunity to run through their battlefields.
Okay.
So, Maddie, I'm running through there, and Eric, I'm thinking about this gorilla that's going to jump out in front of me and try to scare me. And as I go up the little hill and down the little hill there, and in the middle of the night, this daggone deer jumps out in front of me and scares the hell out of me. So anyway, that's a little story about running on the battlefields.
So let me, you told the story before, and I'm wondering, Cam, with your penchant for dressing like a gorilla, could the guy he heard about have been you?
No.
Was that you sure?
No.
You're not sure.
I don't think it was me.
So you don't know.
It was 12 years ago, Cam. Where were you 12 years ago, April 27th?
I was still at Shepherd, actually, at the time, working on my degree.
Ironically, we go to Shepherd University as one of the stops. We run across the bridge.
The plot thickens.
We run across the bridge. What's the historic hotel that's there?
The Bavarian Inn.
Bavarian Inn, yeah.
And we turn around and run down the C&O Canal. This story's starting to come together all of a sudden.
No.
Cam. Come on, Cam.
Nope. I would have been either in the library working on my BA degree or in my room at the time.
All right.
Because when it comes to history, I take it serious.
I know you do, my friend.
Well, that happens to coincide with my shitting my pants story.
Okay.
All right. Well,
all right, let's get to the matter at hand here. All right, so Matt Sheeds, the grandson of the great Colonel Sheeds. That's really what this is all about. We're talking about the Colonel, and you've been working on this for weeks.
I have.
And I'm glad, because it was your idea, I believe, right, to do this. You said, hey, I think, would you mind if I would come on and do that? And I was like, yeah, no, of course, this would be great. Because one of the things that we want to do with Addressing Gettysburg is, I still haven't talked to them about this, but I would like to deliver an archives of oral history for people around here in Gettysburg about, various events and things like that, and give it to the Historical Society if they ever really would want it. And so Colonel Sheeds is a big name amongst Gettysburg people. A lot of people had him as a teacher. A lot of people know him as a guide. He did a lot of things in his life. How old was he when he passed?
Well, I can tell you first when he was born. I'm going to do a little test.
Well, I'd like
here.
to start at the end and go back to the beginning.
Well, how old was he?
Yes.
He was 91 years old.
Okay, so what year was he born in?
Okay, the year he was born. Okay, this is your history test. You ready for your history test?
Yeah, as long as there's no math involved.
No, not really. But I can tell you, this is one thing my grandfather always said to people when they asked him how old he was.
Okay,
So I'm bringing you in.
I got you.
I'm not baiting you.
Go ahead.
He would say to you, Cam and Eric, you'd say, I'm as old as the Pennsylvania Monument. You figure it out. So when was the Pennsylvania Monument erected?
When was it erected or when was it dedicated?
Well, it started. When was it finished? And when was it finished?
Shit, we should know this.
1910, isn't it?
1910.
Yeah, okay.
Ding, 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 ding.
And he died 91 years later.
He did. February 17th, 2002. He almost made his 92nd birthday.
Almost made it. When was his birthday?
April 17th.
Okay.
1910.
Another April birthday. Nice.
Yeah, a lot of
best
April
month.
birthdays. Yeah.
Best month.
So he's born in 1910. And what are his parents' names?
His father's name was David. I'm struggling on his mother's name. But his father's name was David. He was a Gettysburg all his life.
Was his mom a Rosenstiel?
No.
Okay.
That was the other side of the family. We'll get to that. That was
Okay.
He married into the Rosenstiel side.
Okay. Because that's
But,
another name, ladies and gentlemen, around
we'll
here
get to
that's
we have
prominent.
Some
There's some great
wonderful
Rosenstiel
stories. Maddie and I have been laughing about that.
Yes.
But, so the Sheeds family's been here forever. The house that my grandfather was born in 1910 was built by his great grandfather and Jacob Sheeds.
His great grandfather
and his father David Sheeds. They built the house.
Okay.
You ever hear of the Sheeds house that's on Carlisle Street?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, the one. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that when that house was built, some of the remnants of the lumber that was left over was used towards the house at 115.
Oh,
North Stratton
okay.
Street.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So he's born into that house.
Correct.
Like not born at the hospital and taken to that house. He's born in that house.
Exactly. He would tell you he would always say, I wasn't born in the Annie Warner Hospital. People who have been in Gettysburg a long time know where the Annie Warner Hospital is now, the Gettysburg Hospital / Wellspan. But he was very proud that he was born in the upstairs bedroom.
Wow.
He had a twin, and we could talk about it a little bit later
Really?
on. He did. Twin died at birth, and
okay.
well, not birth, 7 days later.
Oh.
But and he actually passed away in the house 91 years later in our dining room.
So that's
no,
amazing.
it's not haunted. The house is not haunted.
I wasn't even going to go there, but thank you for clarifying that so people don't come knocking at your door now. All right. So, but that is amazing. And that's uncommon now, but that wasn't really uncommon through most of history anyway. You'd be born in a house and you probably would die in the house or something. So that's, and he just, was he sick or did he just die?
No, he actually passed of natural causes. I can tell you that he had 8 siblings that were older than he was.
Okay.
And he was always worried, Maddie. Yeah, he was always worried that he was going to go to an elderly home and he was going to die there. He was also worried about going to the hospital, which is not uncommon for people of that era. That you would go to the hospital to die. Die, right?
Yeah.
So he was always stressed about that, and so we did everything we could to keep him in the house as long as we could.
Okay. Okay, so what does he do? He goes to school, of course, like everybody else. And any stories from there, or can I move on to...
No, I think that the important part of that is, I can say, Matt, not like you and I, and I'm going to guess Cam, he's not a slacker, but I can bet you, and Eric, how many days of school do you guys think you missed throughout your high school career?
High school?
Well, just, how about from kindergarten?
From kindergarten? Okay, I'm going to say... 3 a year.
3 a year.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't really get sick.
27. Okay. Eric, how many do you think you missed? Just ballpark.
Oh, I don't know. Probably
Senior skip day.
Probably 4 or 5. I actually We didn't have that at my high school.
You didn't do the streaking on the quad.
And thank God for it.
Frank the Tank. No.
Nobody
you,
wants to see
Eric.
that.
So where I'm going with this?
Well, no, wait. So how many for you?
I don't know, probably 4 or 5 a year.
4 or 5 a year. Okay. So Cam, how about you?
I think I missed maybe 2 or 3 days, 2 or 3, and we had a senior skip day.
Okay.
And on my skip day, I did take that off, but I went to the library and
All
did
right.
research.
I got you.
I went in the
Nerd
archives.
alert. How about you? 6 questions, Lens.
With my injury history, don't ask.
This is 6 questions, Lentz.
Oh yeah, you didn't.
I didn't know. We have 2 stars here.
man,
6 questions. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I did not know.
You are in the presence of giants, let me tell you.
My birthday is October, but I feel like it's today.
Yeah, with my injury history, I'm surprised they gave me a diploma. I mean, my goodness.
All right. So
Okay.
we've done the we guessed this. Okay. How many days of grade school? Now, no kindergarten back in 1910, but how many days of school did my grandfather miss up to 1928 when he graduated from high school? How many do you think he missed?
Total, I'm going to say 2.
Less than. Eric, you have a guess? Less than 2.
None.
None. Exactly. So what happened was he had some of his brothers, some of his sisters that never missed a day. And so he said, you know what? I can't beat that record, but I can tie
You
it.
can tie.
And you know what he did?
He tied.
He tied. And you know what he did from there? He went to college. He kept the party going.
Really?
Didn't miss a day.
Oh man, I missed every day at college.
And you know what?
Yeah.
You know what? He taught school 35 years. How many days do you think he missed that were not from the military?
None.
0.
So would he just go to work sick, or did he not get sick a lot?
It wasn't anything such thing as COVID then. I think I can tell you what killed him.
But he lived
honestly.
through the Spanish flu.
But you know what? You know how I got through it?
How?
Alcohol. He loved alcohol.
There you go.
We
There
can
we
talk for days about the alcohol, but no, he never drove a day in his life, and we'll get back to that later on. But I attribute his 91 years, as do my uncles and my dad. The 91 years on this earth was based on walking every day. Having a little bit of alcohol doesn't hurt.
Sure.
And
Preserves
living a clean life.
I mean, look
But,
at Keith Richards. He's 98 years old.
Exactly.
Looks not a day over
I thought
65.
he was a buck too.
No, maybe he is by now. Who knows? All right, so he now you sent us some videos or just last night, and I was watching one of them, and I immediately saw why everybody liked Colonel Sheeds. He's just this guy you want to sit like the video is him sitting in front of a room of people. What was the event? Do you know what I'm talking about? It's the first one in that list.
I do. I think it was in 1994, give or take a year. The Harrisburg Area Community College, the Gettysburg branch, wanted to have an evening with Colonel Sheeds. I would say 75, 80 people were there, maybe.
It was a good
number. And it was just kind of a meet and greet, talking with the colonel.
So at that point in his life, in the 90s, so it's towards the end of his life.
Here's your math time: 1910 minus 94.
He's, I don't know, like 100 or something.
94
He's like
minus
80
10,
something.
84.
84.
Yep.
He.
It's like Howard Stern doing his math. He's like, okay, carry 2 divided by 3.
I can't believe
Yeah.
you didn't finish college.
I can't.
Man.
I barely finished high
I
school.
love Eric.
Good for you, Eric.
Nice.
So but by that point though, he's obviously a name like around here. People know him. But what was it at that point that gave them the idea to say, well, let's do an evening with Colonel Sheeds, and people are going to buy tickets to this?
Well, so it was
Like,
just
what
an
was the
invite.
purpose?
It was, I think a little bit of it was, and Matt, we'll get a link to it sometime later for you.
Yeah,
fans
yeah,
that
yeah.
wanna watch that particular. We'll get that worked out. Don't do that until I talk to you about it, but we'll get
Sure.
it worked out. But everybody from at that time, the state representative Ken Cole and Terry Fox and Andrews, the superintendent, they wanted to honor my grandfather, and I think the way that they ended up trying to get him there was say, hey, why don't you come hang out? Let's tell some stories
Okay.
about we'll ask some questions, and then we're gonna give you a whole bunch of cool stuff at the end. And like I said, it's a little.
What'd they give him?
Little tease. So you go to the end of the. I don't want to ruin it for the viewers, but they gave him Terry Fox, and we talk about him later. Gave him a shoe because he was saying it was tough to fill his shoes. Just
little cute little symbolic
little fun
quirky things.
But enjoyable things.
I like it because he's talking about when he meets the guy who played Meade in the movie. What's his name? Is it Anderson? Is it? Do you remember? Yeah, it's like Richard Anderson. There you go. And he says, "Great, I'd love to talk to him." And he meets the guy, and he says, "This is great that you're playing Meade." And the guy's like, "Yeah, it's just a small part," and he was upset because he liked General Meade.
General George G. Meade was my grandfather's favorite of all.
Was he?
At Gettysburg.
Yeah.
He felt that General Meade saved the day, so to say. What better way can you pay homage to somebody you like than to call your downstairs, follow me on this, my grandfather had a downstairs bar. Guess what it was called? Meade Hall.
Amazing. Now, was this the one in the living room?
No. The downstairs basement.
Oh, in the basement.
Two bars in the basement. It was a speakeasy. Two. Front and back. Hey, I mean, that's
front and back.
45 feet's too far to walk for alcohol.
That's
true. Front and back. We had two. Those booths at restaurants. The high booths there.
Oh yeah.
The card, playing cards in the basement, pool table.
So he had like a finished basement, or just the basement with
we
stuff
go back
in
to
it.
the movie Old School, with Frank the Tank. And it was able to be hosed down at the end of the night. Maybe like Mama Ventura's, downstairs.
Oh yeah. Okay, I remember that.
But yeah,
scary. So in other words, it was scary.
Yeah, I spent I spent a lot of time down in the basement as I grew up.
Sure.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll get to that later. I just want to paint a picture of who your grandfather was for now. Okay, so he's got the Meade Hall downstairs. So he likes Meade. In the video, he's talking about Lee and how all this focuses on Lee and everything like that. It's funny to watch. I don't remember exactly what he said, and I'm not going to try to paraphrase him. But it's funny to watch, back in the 90s, what the thoughts, or his thoughts at least, were about Lee and Meade and all that stuff. And I think he would be happy that, there's a couple of Meade books out or coming out soon. Awesome. And I think a lot of people are catching up to him on how important Meade was and how he wasn't... he didn't do a bad job here.
Right.
And I'll fight any man who thinks he did.
Let's go.
Well, I'll have Mike do it. But
you probably call me.
Yeah, I'll call Matt. Hey, Matt, this guy wants to fight me.
Let's drop the gloves.
So he goes to college at Gettysburg?
He does. So just a quick background on my grandfather, and I believe maybe there's a visual for it. He graduated in 1928 from Gettysburg High School, valedictorian of his class. He's very, very proud of that. His senior class trip to down where your neck of the woods, Mount Vernon. He goes to Mount Vernon because you said you're down in D.C., right, Cam? Now, I don't know if the visual's up or not, but look how dapper the men are. And how all the ladies have the cool hats on. Oh, yeah. And they all look like they're like 40, 45 years old. I mean, they're all aged. Now, we're at getting ready to that Great Depression going on, you know what I mean? And so but top end, so he graduated valedictorian from his class. And then his great friend, Hugh McElhaney, who went on later on to be heavily involved with the Gettysburg Times. Hugh, as maybe you pop up in a picture by a tree, he was salutatorian of his class. Now, both Hugh McElhaney and my grandfather, Colonel Sheeds, ended up going to Gettysburg College. Both did very well there. What do you think my grandfather was at college? Do you think he had an honor?
Oh, yeah.
Not quite the top one, though.
No, but he's going to be the salutatorian.
Absolutely. And guess what happened to Hugh?
He's the valedictorian. No kidding.
I swear to you. I'm not making it up.
Oh, man. Now, Hugh McElhaney, that name rings a bell for students of the battle. Why?
Well, there's a McElhaney farm.
Nope. Well, maybe, but okay, keep going.
Okay. Well, you might know better than I. So let me just sidebar for a second.
What did Hugh do?
What did he do? Well, he was at the Gettysburg Times. He was the
And what is the
publisher.
Gettysburg Times?
Well, it's the local newspaper. What had happened was they all came together.
Yes.
So the various newspapers, it was the Compiler,
The Star and
Banner,
and the
they
other one,
They all come together and become
Sentinel.
one Gettysburg Times.
Yes.
The one that Veronica likes to read on a daily basis.
Yes. And McElhenney was the name of the person who was the editor of the Lens. Help me out here. 6 questions. Was it the Star and Banner? I want to say it's the Star and Banner. I don't know. One of those papers. So he's carrying on the family business.
Correct.
Basically.
Yes, correct. Now I'm going to tell you, Matt. Just a little sidebar here. You follow sports?
No.
Not at all. You don't.
I couldn't care less.
Do you know who the Mannings are?
Oh yeah, I can follow it that much.
So
Yeah.
you know Archie Manning, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And you have Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, and there's a Manning brother named Cooper.
Cooper, sure.
Now you don't remember Cooper being in the NFL, right?
No.
You have the Cooper of the Sheeds family. I'm not the historian, okay? So you know if you want Eli Manning or Peyton Manning,
Right. Got to talk to your
or
uncles.
Archie, you'll get my uncles in and my dad. So I'm going to do
okay.
my best with the history. So I apologize.
Well,
for that.
no. I thought we had discussed it earlier. That's why I was doing it that way.
Well, Cam was distracting me. Thanks, Cam.
Cam. Okay. All right. So now I love. Oh, okay. So
Compose yourself.
he's the salutatorian,
That's class.
and then what does he do right out of college?
So what happens is, so now he's graduating in 1932.
Okay.
You know what's going on in 1932? A couple things are going on in
The
32.
Depression.
Depression. How do you get a job in the Depression? Now, he was,
Work for the government.
well, you can. But what happens is this. He graduates from college with an English major. Little known fact. People say, well, why history?
Yeah.
What's the deal with history? Well, he said, you know what, this is a horrible time to graduate. I was listening to the one video. He said that he opened up, it was the 100th anniversary of Gettysburg College. It was 1932. He opens the book up. He finds 144 people who are in the education business. He writes 144 letters, no BS, 144 letters to all the alumni with self-addressed stamped envelope. And he bragged, he said, you know what, one thing that I really appreciated about the Gettysburg College alumni, they all responded, but nobody had a job for him.
Wow.
So he went back and he decided to get his master's in history. Okay.
Okay.
So follow me now. Now he's out. Was it 30? Now it's 32 a year or so. We can talk a little bit about the Prohibition era and where he was getting his alcohol later. Okay, there's a whole section on alcohol.
Yes.
For those of you boozers out
we're
there,
gonna
right?
bring that
We're
up,
gonna bring
yes.
that up, right? We're gonna talk about iced beer but anyway. So what he does is he works at a canning factory.
Okay.
Right out of college. And what he also does, which is very, very interesting, and I'd heard this story before, but it was reaffirmed. My grandfather in the one video we speak of, he was slinging beer as a bartender at the Eagle Hotel.
Oh.
And that is
the late great Eagle Hotel.
and the one that burned.
Yeah.
So ironically, that's how he got his job. He was giving freebies to the superintendent of the school district, who eventually gave him a shot in 1935 as a teacher.
Really?
I swear to you.
Wow.
Yeah. But
Hey, man, that's the way to do it.
He was doing that. The canning factory. He did spend some time. He went down to Fort McHenry. Excuse me. And then from Fort McHenry, he went to Fort Necessity for a year. And then I guess that's 35. I think 1937 is when he started here at the park.
So how long was he at the park for?
37 to, I believe, officially like 1974.
Okay. And
So-
and in that time, he wasn't a licensed battlefield guide, or did he
A little
do
bit.
that?
So he if anybody knows my grandfather, would tell him what the badge number was. He's badge number 111.
Oh, nice.
He wasn't a battlefield guide as much as he did some other stuff. We can talk about the cyclorama later on and what he did there. We can talk about some other things he did with the Park Service, but we talk about FDR a little bit.
Well, okay. So he's with the Park Service, but he also becomes a teacher, doesn't he?
1935. So see, I'm giving. So what happens is I feed you guys. I bring you guys some chicken wings, and then all of a sudden you guys are on the show. I've bribed you guys to get on the show.
To get on the Sheeds show.
I have more briberies later on, but I have some more briberies to maybe get invited back if the fans like.
We're not about bribes.
But good. I have some bribes. I've plenty of bribes
speak for yourself, Eric.
But again, so he became a teacher in 1935. Elementary school, the Lincoln Elementary School, and for a couple years he taught the elementary school kids. Some good stories there with that.
Okay, all right. So then he, well, give me some of those stories.
So what happens is what I found like later in life. We talk about my grandfather. I knew my grandfather as somebody. So my mom and dad got divorced when I was 5, almost 6. My dad was working till 5, 6 o'clock at night up in Harrisburg. My mom was a nurse. She was working tough hours. So I spent a lot of time with my grandparents. Okay. I spent a lot of time with my grandparents. I grew up many, many years living with them. Okay. And as you grow up and you walk around town and people ask you what your name is, I thought I was a rock star. Oh, Sheeds? Your last name's Sheeds? Are you related to Colonel Sheeds? I'm like, well, yeah, Colonel's my grandfather. And so where I'm going with the story is, I really felt like, wow, this guy must be somebody who's really, really cool. I didn't know what he did. I knew he was really cool. But people always wanted to share their experiences. And one of the experiences where I'm going with this long-winded story is several people would tell me that he loved spelling. My grandfather loved spelling. And so he taught spelling, and they would have the spelling bee. You'd see the national spelling bee, and these could you put that in a sentence, and could you say it again? Well, my grandfather would have these spelling bees, and he would break the teams up by Ivy League schools. Okay. He found these Ivy League pennants when he was in Philadelphia one time. He brought them back, Yale, Brown, Harvard, and he was assigned to teams. And so when I ran into people in town, they would tell me, oh, I was on Colonel Sheeds' Yale team, or I was Penn team. Now, they weren't winning anything other than the school pride, and that was important back then. So
sure.
That's
and they probably didn't get into any of those schools either, or did they?
I don't know, maybe.
Maybe.
Tough to say.
I bet they did. I bet they didn't. Not because of him, but because that's hard. Those are hard schools to get into.
Well, you're Joseph with a Z, Joseph
yeah.
with a Z.
Joseph.
It cost him $140,000. He bribed Yale to get in.
He did.
You know what he got out of it? He got
sheepskin.
He got an email address.
Oh, that's right.
He spent $140,000 for an email address. Joseph.
Yes. Sucker.
Joseph, I say that with admiration, my friend. Believe me, I'm not knocking you.
I like how you say that as if he's watching.
He probably thought you had like 1 million viewers on, man.
He's like, wow, so this is like as big as Joe Rogan? Yeah. And I said, yeah, that's
we
it.
surprised the hell out of him, didn't we?
Joke's on him. All right, Matt, get serious now. All right, so where did we leave off? The Yale team, the Brown team.
Is this your golf voice?
Yes. Matt is going to swing his putter thing.
It's in the hole. It's in the hole.
It's in the hole. All right, so seriously, stop messing around. All right, so he has the teams. That's where we left off. Harvard, Yale, Brown, etc.
But he gets his shot at what he really wants to do, and it's to teach American history.
Okay.
So he goes from the JV. No offense to anybody who teach elementary school, but his desire, the big leagues, would be to teach American history, 11th grade American history to be exact. And so he gets that call up, so to say. I'm using some sports analogies, but and next thing you know, But next thing you know, he's the most dynamic teacher of all time at Gettysburg High School.
Right.
So I hear.
Well, I mean, this is what I hear too. Deb Novotny was talking about him when she was on the show, because they were colleagues for a while.
They were. Miss Novotny, I call her Miss Novotny. She was my
because she was your
grade
teacher.
Yeah, I'll tell you a little story about Miss Novotny.
Well, let's keep it
a little bit.
Okay.
It's clean. It's clear.
Okay. No, I didn't mean dirty. I mean just like let's not embarrass people.
No. This is a compliment to Miss Novotny.
Okay, good. Okay?
Tell it. I think the world of Miss Novotny. Two stories. Miss Novotny, like you said.
How are you saying her name?
Miss Novotny.
Okay.
Miss.
It sounded like there was a D in there.
Miss
It
Like
was-
the rain?
mist-
Is it misting out?
Misty. Mist.
Mist.
Okay, Mist
Mist.
Mist. No, now I'm
So-
doing it. Mist Novotny.
So, I believe that Miss Novotny was very much into going and taking pictures of graves.
Graves, yeah.
That came from my grandfather.
Right.
Okay. But I had Miss Novotny as my 11th grade history teacher. And so she always talked my grandfather up and made me feel really special about my grandfather. So lo and behold.
Did you get a good grade?
Well, there we go. Ready for this?
Oh.
So we're assigned this project to write something about the Battle of Gettysburg, about the Civil War. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to go out and I'm going to write about Nellie, the chicken. Nellie the chicken. Robert E. Lee's chicken. You know about Robert E. Lee's chicken? Well, Nellie was the pet chicken, and Nellie decided to lay eggs every day for Robert E. Lee, right?
Sure.
And little Nellie be underneath the cot. Well, you know what happened to Nellie? Well, the chef was a little low on food one time after Gettysburg, and Nellie got cooked up for the.
Oh, Nellie.
Poor Nellie. So,
And that's where we get the expression, whoa, Nellie.
I don't know that. I thought it
No,
was a horse
I
thing.
just made that up.
So I'm thinking this is great. So I'm going to write this 11th grade paper on Nellie. Okay, you follow
Nellie
along
the
with
chicken,
it?
yep,
Draw
yep.
a little Nellie the chicken, the whole deal. Give it to Mr. Novotny. I get the grade back. I'm looking at it. It's a B. It's a win. To me, it's a win, right?
Yeah, I hear you.
This goes back to the Cooper
That's
Manning.
like a C in math for me.
Well, yeah, so it's a win, right? So like the Cooper Manning. She looks at me with that look. You know that look that she gives, and she shakes her head and she says, "Matt, you're a Sheeds. I expect a little bit more. I expect you to be getting A's." So I set my but it motivated me.
Okay, good.
And so
It embarrassed you a little bit, I'm sure.
a little bit, and it gave me a realization that, like, hey, look, I got to keep the Sheeds name going in the right direction.
Right.
And I can tell you, I had a little anxiety coming on today because I'm not the historian that my grandfather was or my uncle.
Well,
my dad,
and you've
but-
mentioned this before, but we're not here for a history lesson in the proper sense, but it's more of a family history and
Sure.
a history of a grandson and his grandfather and his memories of him. So it really, it doesn't, I mean, we all have grandfathers. And with some of the stories that you're telling me about the Colonel remind me of, my grandfathers in different ways.
Sure.
And it's nice. It's nice to hear. And I'm sure the audience is enjoying it too. And we don't care if we get history right on this particular episode. That's fine.
We're going to do our best.
Yeah, well, that's fine. Okay. So, before we get to you coming in the picture, so he's a teacher and he's working at the park at the same time. So he's obviously part-time at the park, I'm guessing.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Like weekends.
Yes. He liked to say that he was a moonlighter. That was one of his favorite things
Yeah.
to say. He was a moonlighter because what happens is in education, 9 months out of the year, you're getting paid.
Right.
3 months out of the year, you're painting picket fences or
Doing
you're
whatever you gotta
slinging
do.
beer or
Yeah.
doing whatever you're doing. And in his particular case, he said, I'm a history major. I'm teaching history. Why not go work at the Park Service? Why not be a battlefield guide? Why not talk about what I love? And so he made money there. He often bragged about being. We'll talk about that.
Was
later
he
on.
ever a full-time guide?
I don't know that. I got the impression, and I apologize for not knowing that, but I got the impression that he was selective in who he took over. He I don't know that he really liked taking the buses over, but he'd take the buses over. Dignitaries would call indirectly. They would call and get my grandfather. But
The famous people
some
or
famous
important people.
Yeah.
Like we got some here. Let's get into.
Okay.
We're going to jump around here.
That's fine,
So you mentioned FDR before. So 1938. Tell the
Yeah,
story.
so my grandfather thinks he's big time. 1938, President of the United States is coming to town. FDR was a Democrat, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so my grandfather, as I may have told you before, was a devout Democrat. We'll talk about that in detail. But he bragged. I think he voted for FDR 4 times. Does that sound right? So far, so good. So he's thinking, man, I'm going to have a front row seat. FDR's coming in 1938.
and he's going to thank me for voting.
Me. Yeah, I'm the reason.
Me.
I've heard 2 stories. One story, I heard my grandfather was as far away as possible. He was, where the crowd ends.
Yeah.
He was another 500 feet past there.
Okay.
And I heard another story. That's the story I heard from my grandfather. But I heard another story that the Park Service had put him in some Weikert farm or someplace answering phones, so he wasn't even where he wanted to be. But I like the trying to get the binoculars out to see who is that guy, right?
Yeah.
So, but it comes full circle. So he was about as far away from a president at Gettysburg in one breath, and later on we can talk about how as close as he was.
So then let's jump there since we're talking about presidents.
All right.
Jifk. We go from Fitter to Jifk.
Yeah.
And what is the story behind that one?
Okay, so, and this is my grandfather's words. This isn't somebody told me this story. Later on, again, if your listeners click on the video, that you can hear some of these firsthand what I'm telling you from my grandfather's mouth. So, everybody loved my grandfather. I mean, truly, everybody loved my grandfather. Students that came through adored him. And in March of 1963, one of my grandfather's students was dating somebody with the Secret Service.
Oh.
And the Secret Service...
Wait a second. He's a high school teacher at this time?
Yes.
So a high school girl is dating a Secret Service guy?
No,
or former student?
Former student.
Okay. That's
so
a
far,
little
so
more
good.
comfortable.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We're not talking about Reynolds and, the 40-year-old Reynolds and dating the 17-year-old girl. Mary, that story about Mary?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I do a little bit of history.
Katie?
Yeah, Katie. Who went down to the Seton Center and almost became a nun.
Almost.
So see, I know some stories. Okay.
Some of it stuck with you.
It has, but we're not talking about that gap. We're talking about
Was
somebody.
she really 17?
Yeah, something like that.
In that song, just
17. Yeah, that's what the Beatles were talking about. John
exactly.
Reynolds.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So, and I can tell you later on that there was a Sheeds that was there when Reynolds was mortally wounded, but we'll get into that some other point.
Okay. Are you keeping a list of all these things that we're going to get into at another point?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, I'm hoping to build up for maybe another show.
Oh, I see what you're doing. You've got an agenda. I got you. Okay.
Listen, I'm no. So listen. So going back to it. So now the Secret Service hears about this guy, Colonel Sheeds, who is the guy you have to have. So guess what? The Secret Service contacts my grandfather to come up and have a conversation with him. Okay. Now my grandfather, he has the front door that nobody goes to.
Right.
What he says is, if somebody's knocking on the front door,
get your gun.
It's a collector.
A
debt. Somebody he was a debt to.
Yeah.
Side door. That's where he said that's where he do all his business.
That's where the friends and people you want.
Beer. Okay. That's where the beer gets delivered from the beer distributor. That's where the Adams County Historical Society, their satellite office, aka my grandfather's house. If you come to the side door, you're a friend. You come to the front door, you're not.
Okay.
But guess who's knocking on the front door?
The Secret Service.
Secret Service.
Sure.
So at the time, I believe my Uncle Tim and my father, Steve, they're out on the porch. They come running in and they say, "Dad, there's a black limousine out and an arsenal of weapons inside this vehicle." So he didn't know what he did. He thought maybe he messed up with his taxes or something. He didn't pay his taxes. He didn't know. But he comes in and the Secret Service sits down and they say, "Look, we want you to take President Kennedy over the battlefield, but guess what?
What?
You can't tell anybody. You can't even tell your wife about it."
Oh.
He's like, "Oh, what am I gonna do?" It's like it's like winning the lottery and not being able to spend it on your friends.
Right.
I mean, that's what you'd expect. If I won the lottery, I'd be
sure.
I mean, this.
Well, that's if you. Yeah, that's what I'm expecting.
This corporate headquarters would be threefold the size it is now.
Oh, good. So it'll be 30 feet long.
But well, anyway, so the Secret Service goes out. They do this test run.
Yeah.
Okay? And they take them around on the battlefield, and you go to the first day's battle, and the second day's battle, and the third day's battle, and they say, "Look, don't let the President of the United States out of the car. We're concerned that if the President of the United States gets out of the vehicle, that crowds are going to form, and we're going to have an issue." Make sense?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. And they also told him, I said, "Look, if anybody asks you if the President of the United States was knowledgeable, you're supposed to say yes." And my grandfather's like, "Well, what the hell else would I say?"
Yeah, right.
Of course he's knowledgeable, right?
No, he was an idiot.
But he does want to test JFK later on, and I'll tell you that story. So now we do the test run like anything. You do the test run, you have it all figured out, you're ready to go, and guess what happens? The plan gets changed.
Oh.
Okay? So my grandfather gets picked up at 115 North Stratton Street, where he was born and where eventually he died, where he lived all his life.
Sure.
He gets taken out to, have you been to Edgewood Bowling Alley out Emmitsburg Road?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
All right, right down, right.
Right down by
right?
Cam's house.
So guess what? They meet there, and my grandfather's thinking the whole time the Secret Service is going to drive, and they're going to be in charge of what's going on. and the president's not going to get out of the vehicle. Everything's going to be cool. Guess who's in the driver's seat?
Jifk.
JFK in the driver's seat. Hair looking good as always.
Yeah, sunglasses.
He's ready to go, looking cool.
It's like, hop in.
Yeah, and guess what?
We're going for a ride.
Yeah, exactly. You should do acting.
No, I shouldn't.
Have you ever done a movie? You should be in a movie. Inside joke. So, well, anyway, so now he gets there, but I mean, he likes JFK.
Yeah, because he's a Democrat.
Yeah, but guess what he likes more?
Jackie.
Guess what? JFK is driving, and of course he's got to sit in the middle. My
Sure.
grandfather's in the middle, and he's a kid in the candy store. He's looking over. The president's looking good, but I'm telling you, there's a great set of legs, as my grandfather said. He was so freaking distracted by that great set of legs, as he said.
These pictures.
If you look, if you see one, he has a tongue out in one of them. If you see, Eric, can you cue the tongue one? Can you cue the one where he's?
I couldn't get that one to download.
Okay.
Sorry.
But the one we're looking at now, it looks like he's taking a look at her. Like
he's looking straight past JFK, straight at Jackie.
So
I mean, she was a pretty woman.
well, now
I'm not
Maddie,
gonna lie.
you've been jumping around me. I jump around to after it was. We're gonna get back to the actual event, okay?
Yeah.
But after it gets over, when my grandfather goes home and talks to my grandmother,
Yeah.
my grandmother said, "So, did you like Jackie's dress?" He said, "I never once looked at her dress. I never noticed." That's on that video we're talking about. So anyway, this is what happens.
That's one of the videos you sent us on the YouTube.
That's the one video that we're going to talk about.
Okay.
You get to hear at the very end, and maybe you can play a clip later on, sometime in some other show. Just those little clips about JFK.
No, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and pull these things we're talking about and cut them in to this conversation.
See, I knew you did that.
Yeah.
You know you
This is going to take a while to come out. But.
So now best laid plan, right? Best laid
Yes.
plans. Okay, so we're gonna do the first day's battle, right? We're gonna do the second day's battle. We're gonna do the third day's battle. Guess what?
They don't have the time.
Well,
Oh.
let's start the third day's battle. Jesus, my grandfather's like, I have a script. First day's battle.
Wait,
second day's
they
battle.
want to start at the third day?
We're starting at the third day's battle because you're already out there, Emmitsburg Road.
Ugh, godless heathens.
That's not how it was
Because
planned.
the old visitor center was out on the Tawnytown Road.
Well, yeah, but it didn't matter. They met at Edgewood Bowling Alley.
Oh, right.
So-
That's so weird. You're meeting the president at the bowling alley.
Yeah, maybe you wanted to bowl. I don't know. Maybe Maryland.
So that's cool, though. If you go down to that bowling alley, JFK was in that parking lot.
Yeah.
Sneaking into a car.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
And it was all above board this time.
Yeah, because he came up from Camp David.
Yeah.
Is where he came up from.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
So-
okay. Yeah.
So now they're cruising around the battlefield. You'll see some pictures. They stop at the angle. They stop at my grandfather.
North Carolina Monument.
Yeah, North Carolina. But now that being said, just to rewind for a second. My grandfather was so nervous that night. He's like, man, I don't want to mess this up. And my grandfather always said what he would do is he would try to know where the person or party was from. So where's Jeff from?
Massachusetts.
So he spent all night reading about Massachusetts. He's going to make sure that when JFK gets to tour, we're going to talk about Massachusetts.
He's like, I don't give a shit. I like my house in Virginia better.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So we're there, and there's a Massachusetts monument there by the
angle?
The angle, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and so now we're driving around some more, and this is where my grandfather decides he's going to test JFK. Okay. He's like, you know what? I'm supposed to say he's really knowledgeable and the whole deal, but he's got to test him. So they come around. They're driving, and we're passing the Irish Wolfhound Monument. You follow
Irish Brigade.
right? We're coming up around the corner there. The little ghost, the monument that people say is the. They call it the ghost. My grandfather used to try to scare me with that when I was younger. You make that turn, and right to the right, is there not another Massachusetts monument?
Yes.
And so my grandfather stops, right? And he says, Mr. President, we guides, we don't know Gaelic. We've been wondering for years what that says, that Fakabala. And you don't have to bleep that because it's not a bad word.
Right.
You're
okay.
Fakabala, but so we've been...
You swear like flowers.
So, Mr. President, I was wondering, what that might be. And President Kennedy turns and says, Colonel Sheeds, that's clear the way in Gaelic, clear the way. So my grandfather's like, man, I don't have to lie about him being knowledgeable.
He's knowledgeable.
He is knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we have President asking questions. Okay. You know, we have everybody in the car asking questions. Caroline was in the car. JFK Jr. was not.
Yeah.
But here's something for you guys. I want to see how well how good of a job your parents did raising you. You ready for this? You ready for this one?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to ask each one of you. President of the United States asks you a question. Okay? But guess what? Simultaneously, guess who else is asking you a question? Jackie, the First Lady. So now you have the President of the United States and you have the First Lady asking you a question at the exact same time.
First Lady. You're supposed to. I'm sure you're supposed to go to the President, but I would go to the First Lady.
Where would you go, Eric?
Good.
Oh.
First lady. Sorry.
Cam?
President.
You go President? Sixth question?
President.
Six
Well, these daggone Southern boys here, they must not have been raised right. You have to answer the lady first.
Yeah.
And that's what my grandfather
so I was
said.
right.
You're right.
First
You're
Lady.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would just go with her because she's more attractive.
Wait, what did I answer?
You said President.
No,
I
you
meant-
said
oh.
first.
Oh, he did?
First
Oh,
First
okay.
Lady?
First Lady.
Yeah.
Thank
So
But listen,
we were raised right. You guys.
but you know what?
Different story.
It's a tough question. So that's where I'm going with it. So my grandfather taught. So now we're at third day's battle. We're driving around. I say we. My grandfather never drove a day in his life. We go do the second day's battle. We're liking that, and now we go to the first day's battle. But you know what's been happening the whole time? President Kennedy and Jackie have been getting out of the vehicle, as you see in the pictures.
Yes.
Well,
They
you know
want to
what
get out and
happens?
see things.
You know what happens? That president's pretty recognizable, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
2 become 4, 4 becomes 6, 8, 10, 12. So now you have people following my grandfather and President Kennedy around on the battlefield. They get to the peace light. So far, so good. Mm-hmm. Okay. We're going to talk about the peace light in a little bit. Okay. But you know what's at the peace light? What do we see there? Do you know what we see?
Flame.
Huh? The eternal.
The eternal flame, says Cam.
The eternal flame. That's exactly right. So
Cam, put that mic closer to your mouth.
So JFK.
Why don't people understand how microphones work?
So JFK and Jackie think that's the coolest thing. They learn about the
flame.
The flame, right? You know, right there were the Sheeds. You know this, did you? It's the Sheeds - Pitzer Woods. My grandfather's very proud.
Yeah, we knew that.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not the historian. You are, right?
Well, I'm not either,
anyway.
but yeah.
So I'm sure my grandfather dropped, hey, it's my woods there, Sheeds Woods.
Right.
But, well, anyway, they were really impressed by it. But what happens is this. The Secret Service says at the peace light, they say, look, crowds is too heavy. We got to cut this. We got to cut this off. So President Kennedy says to my grandfather, I want to finish the tour someday. I want to come back. Maybe I can come back. Check this out. Maybe I can come back. No BS. In November of 1963.
Oh, no.
Maybe I can come back. Maybe I can come back for the 100th anniversary of the Gettysburg Address.
Oh.
Okay? So far, so good.
Yes.
Right? So there's discussion about it. Okay. There's legitimate discussion about that. Okay. So now we get to October, maybe. I'm kind of making up the date on it, but the invitation is extended to do it. JFK, there's some battling going down in Dallas, some political battling going on. So he respectfully declines coming to the 100th anniversary of the Gettysburg Address. Do you know what happens? I bet 4 out of 4 here.
Let's see. Cameron, you're motioning to the back of your head. What does that mean?
He got assassinated.
He got assassinated.
Colonel Sheeds?
No.
Oh, JFK.
JFK gets assassinated. One of the roughest days of my grandfather's life.
I bet.
He's at school and he hears it, and I think everybody leaves.
But the good news is Jackie's free now.
She is free.
So tell us this.
She is free.
Tell us this story.
But you know what? My grandfather, look but not touch, maybe. My grandfather was very, very much in love with my grandmother.
Oh,
the
okay.
Rosenstiel side.
Okay.
Married for 50 years. I have some great grandmother stories. But so he was very, very faithful to her. Even though Jackie was available, my grandfather said, you know what? I have the love of my life in my grandmother.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Good for him. I'm sure Jackie was probably a little distraught having had her husband's brains all over her body, but
Yeah, she was.
that's a different story. But okay, so that's cool. So I always heard that the thing about him coming back in November, but I always heard it from other guides, and they claimed that they heard it from your grandfather. But you've
True
heard this
story.
from your grandfather
I
too.
have. True story.
So okay, so it's not one of those legends.
Yeah, it's not urban/pulp fiction.
Did he say that they were nice? Did he get a sense? Because when I meet famous people, I'm like always expecting them to be jerks, and then I find out, they're actually really normal, nice people, and you can relate to them. And so, did he feel the same way?
Yeah, I feel not a whole lot of conversation about it, other than the fact that he truly enjoyed that time. It was short of my Uncle Mike, my Uncle Tim, my dad being born, and being married to Marie Sheeds. That was the highlight of his life.
Good for him.
Truly enjoyed it.
Now,
Excuse me.
kind of skipping around here, but I took a tour of Neal Avenue, also known as Lost Avenue.
Oh, you know some stories about that?
Well, I heard one from Dean Schultz.
I can tell you that the population in Gettysburg was on the rise.
It increased.
Was on the rise because of my grandfather. Okay, so my grandfather loved to not only teach history, but he wanted you to see the history.
Experience.
So far, so good.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And so he spoke of Neal Avenue, which is out the Baltimore Pike. A couple monuments out there. You have to traipse through either the backwoods off Clapsaddle Road, or if you're lucky enough to know Dean Schultz and you can say hi to him, he'll let you wander up the hill. And so my grandfather would challenge the
Students.
the co-eds to go up and take a walk in the woods. But needless to say, I think my grandfather even said that he felt that maybe he had something to do with maybe some extracurricular activities.
No. Some teen pregnancies? Oh, no. So the kids would go up there to try to find Lost Avenue, and then they'd realize, hey, no one can see us.
Exactly.
No one's up here.
Exactly.
And next thing you know, 9 months later, there's a little
Johnny.
baby being born. Little Johnny's born, and he grows up thinking that his mother is his sister, and that whole thing.
Yeah, my grandfather. Speaking of that mother and sister, my grandfather always said you have to be very, very careful in Gettysburg, because you're either probably related to him through blood or through marriage.
Yeah.
and you find that in Gettysburg as you look back through.
Well, it's interesting because a guy we had on the show before named Ken Rich. You know Ken?
I do not.
Okay. Well, he's he has a tour company called Reluctant Witnesses, and he does town tours. And he's like, he knows so much stuff about the town, and he's got like an encyclopedic memory. And you mention someone, and he'll be like, "Oh yeah, she was married to so and so, who was the cousin of such and such, and they were married to such and such, which is her cousin."
Right.
And and he can do that. And when he does that, and you listen to it, you're just like, this entire town is inbred, but it's really not. But I mean, it's just, you've got these like maybe 5 or 6 main families with these big names that if you go through Evergreen Cemetery,
See Myers,
you see them all over the
Yeah.
Myers, Culps, Sheeds.
I'm related to Culps through marriage.
Okay.
Well, I am, but through marriage.
Yeah.
Myers, you have Menchie's. You have different names that we're related to. But Rosenstiel. Love to talk about them.
Let's talk about the Rosenstiels for a bit. So your grandmother's family were Rosenstiels.
Correct.
And how was she related to the people that had the old visitor center, that started the old visitors, or that had that collection?
So they're
the building too.
Yeah. So I'm going to rewind back a little bit with my grandfather and grandmother. My grandfather always said Wolf Hill. Is that what it's called? Wolf Hill.
Yeah.
My grandfather always said that about my grandmother being from the wild Wolf Hill. So I guess the Rosenstiels had a reputation up on top of the hill, right? But just a little background on the Rosenstiels, as you may or may not know. Get that button ready. But my Rosenstiel relatives helped to build the 44th New York.
Yes.
And do you know who helped to design the 44th New York monument?
Who?
Hit it. Dan.
Menachem Begin.
No,
not Menachem Begin.
Dan Butterfield.
Dan Butterfield.
But you can also,
Dan,
that's the right way.
Butterfield.
So my relatives, the Rosenstiels and the Zays, actually helped to build that monument.
The Rosenstiels and the who's?
Zays.
How do you spell that?
Ooh, I think it's Z-H-E-A, Zay.
Zay, okay.
Zays, okay. So now we have the Rosenstiels, Francis Rosenstiel, Charles Rosenstiel, all these Rosenstiels. You know, my grandmother's dad was Charles Rosenstiel, but that Rosenstiel family is who started gathering the artifacts and had the first museum. They're the ones that donated to the Park Service.
Yeah.
A lot of those artifacts.
No, but they donated them, or the Park Service bought them.
See, I thought they donated. Maybe there was. I don't know that side of the family was.
Did they? All right. Let me ask you this: the original, the old visitor center, was theirs first.
The original.
Yes.
Center. Correct.
So that was the Rosenstiels. They had their collection in there.
Correct.
But was that? I think I remember hearing the story that, like, way back Rosenstiels, one of them was like interested. He had like a little collection of artifacts that he dug up or something like that, and then locals would find them on their farm, and they had no use for them. They'd be like, "Here, Rosenstiel."
Correct.
Right? Okay, that's true.
That's what I gathered too.
Okay.
You know, again.
And so then that grew, but that was like closer to the Battle Rosenstiel, from what I understood, and then passed down through the generations.
Correct.
So which one are your Rosenstiels that put the visitor center up?
So I believe, and I apologize for my not knowing my family history as much, but I think it was my great-grandfather.
Your great-grandfather.
Or maybe my great-grandfather or my great-great-grandfather. I may be incorrect. My great-great-grandfather was Francis Rosenstiel. I have some good stories about him, but it'll make you smile. But
when now, by the way, you mentioned, you know, forgive me for not knowing my family history, but since you said you wanted to do this show, and we said you've been learning a lot about your family history.
Absolutely.
And Eric and I were talking about how great it is.
Oh, it's been great.
Because I mean, all of a sudden, like, you're like on fire, and you're like, I'm finding all this stuff out, and you brought a whole box of stuff. What I have, and I should have brought it in to show the camera. Maybe I'll take a picture of it and I'll edit it in later when I'm doing the video. But what I have at home that you let me borrow to copy is two things. One is a photo album of monuments that your grandfather took. And the other one is his notebook on the Army of Northern Virginia with all of the stats and everything like that. And I want to copy it like page by page, verbatim into my own notebook. And I don't know. I just think it's so cool. It's sitting on my bookshelf right now, and it looks really cool there because it's, you know, old and everything. But it excites me that you're excited about learning about your family history.
Well,
and it's all because of us. I mean, you know, let's give ourselves a hand.
Give yourself a Dan Butterfield.
No, Joey doesn't like that.
But to speak on that for just a couple seconds.
Yeah.
My uncles and my father and my cousin David, we're all getting together, and we're talking about how can we take all these files and all these slides and all these pictures, and how can we digitize them? How can we, you know, make a catalog? How can we get the videos? So we're working on that, and I attribute that to Eric and Matt. I mean, really, and we're all pumped up. You know, we're
Dan, Butterfield.
Hey, where's the sticker box at? You guys should get a sticker. I got him over here. I have a sticker for you guys.
Here, I'm going to get the address in Gettysburg.
Now, if I mail it to you, I'll get it to you by July. It may. I'll make sure it doesn't sit on my desk. little joke from prior episodes.
That's understanding.
No, and I tell you what, if you want me to, I could.
You can fill in for me when I have.
Get a little brand on the on Eric's. I'm Eric's agent for his. The
cartridge box business card
for $50
holder.
$50 will give you some naming rights.
Look at this. Look at this right here. Okay, beautiful, ladies and gentlemen. It opens up, and look.
Handmade.
Look at that. You put your address.
There have been suggestions to make it big enough for iPhones. I've heard.
So iPhone cases.
It could be done.
I think it should be done, Eric.
Just in time for Christmas. Order now.
Why could be when it should be?
Order through Eric because he's a little bit less expensive than Matt. Matt was doubling.
I was like, $65.
He was service charging.
Hey, man, inflation, man. It's a rough year.
If he's going to buy them and resell them, he can charge whatever the hell he wants to.
There you go.
I get paid.
I'll buy them for $30.
But in all seriousness, I really appreciate watching your show. I mean it sincerely. That if people aren't listening to your show and they're missing something,
they're stupid.
It's inspired me to get more involved. So
I'm glad about that. That's great because I think not enough people know their family's history, and whether you have interesting characters like the Colonel or the Rosenstiels with the stories that we're about to talk about. But everybody has a family history, and it's interesting because it's how you got here.
Right. And the problem right now for us is my Uncle Mike and my Uncle Tim, they have family history goes back to the German side.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what was the German name? Was it Sheeds?
So there's a show that is very, very similar that was on Comedy Central. With your boy Levy,
Eugene Levy, yeah,
and
his son Danny.
The second part of it's Creek. Anyone want to venture to guess?
Was your name Shit?
Sheads, and I believe it was spelled Schitz. Sheads.
Wow.
So we decided, as the rumor goes, when we came over from Germany, we can't be calling it Sheads. So
they get off the boat and they're like, "That means what here?"
What?
Oh no, we don't want
no
that.
Shits, no shits.
Your name means Scheisse. Like,
your swearing sounds so elegant.
Spot on, Matt.
So, so Shits was turned to Sheeds.
Yes.
And that's much better.
Yes.
It's a great improvement. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about the Rosenstiels for a bit because I see it here queued up with the picture. I don't know if he showed it yet, but tell us about Round Top Restaurant and the Rosenstiels.
Excellent. So Round Top Restaurant was a popular place. I believe, those of us who don't know where it is, if you're following any kind of Gettysburg history, the poor guy in the porta potty that the tree fell on is where this place is. All right, so the present day porta potty is approximately where the Round Top Restaurant was.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
But there was some good action that was going on back at the turn of the century, 1900s. Okay. So there was a restaurant, and maybe even a museum there, but the restaurant upstairs. But where I'm going with the story is this: I had always heard. Okay, you ready for this, Matt?
Yes.
I'd always heard on West Confederate Avenue. Okay. In my mind, I was told that there was a house of prostitution that was on West Confederate Avenue.
A house of ill repute?
House of ill repute, right? So I'm laughing. I'm like, that poor sucker, some poor family member must have some house of ill repute on West Confederate. I was thinking it's the place that Cher's buying, the Red Patch, is what I thought it was.
Okay.
Or even the one on the corner that Eric says he's going to buy for $800-some thousand. You know what I'm talking about?
No, I'm going to buy that with my second million.
After you sell
After I make millions off of his wallet things, right? Or his business cards. So I'm going to buy. First, I'm going to get the McMillan house, and then I'm going to get the one in the corner.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm asking my uncles and my dad, hey, do you ever hear about the house of ill repute that was on West Confederate Avenue? And I believe it was my one uncle said, well, I don't know it was there, but there was some suspicious activity going on. This place, this Round Top, was owned by the Rosenstiels.
Yeah.
In the basement, there was a dance hall.
Okay.
They had special little menu there for special little cigarettes or cigars, and apparently there was some swinging going on. Not the swinging kind of dancing you're thinking of, but maybe some that house of ill repute stuff that was shaken out.
So
now,
like it was a swingers club?
Well, I kind of heard that, but then I was talking to a friend of mine in town. I'm not going to say his name.
No.
But he owns a hotel in town. And I was speaking to my friend who owns a hotel, a couple of hotels in town, and he had
Can't imagine who that
he had heard just what I said, that it was like a swingers club, that there was like all kinds of like extracurricular.
So wait, they did that back then?
Yeah, 1900s.
Swinging?
Yeah, it's been around.
Who knew? I thought that was like a thing post hippie days, like a hippies.
Maybe Adam and Eve, if
there were other people on the planet at the time. Yeah,
exactly right. So check this out. That's the one story I learned. You want to know another story of interest? I bet nobody's been here. Anybody been to the Dobbin House?
Ever? Yes.
You think any of your listeners have been there?
I think a lot of them have.
What if I told you there was a gentleman named Francis Rosenstiel who ran the pub for a couple of years? I'm not saying it was a downstairs pub like it is.
Because that wasn't there.
It wasn't there, but he ran the pub for a couple years.
Okay.
But you know what Francis also did? Not only was he helping out building Dan Butterfield's vision for the 44th New York Monument.
Dan Butterfield.
And not only was he slinging some beers, but guess what else he was into?
Hookers.
No, he was a cocksman. He was into cockfighting.
Jesus.
You swear like flowers.
He had a cockfighting ring out of the alleyway in the behind.
I'm actually a sober gay American.
He had a cockfighting ring going on. I swear to God. So I'm
where?
In the alleyway behind the Dobbin house. We've all been there.
Do we know what, like in that barn that they just tore down, or
it may have been after hours in the open air? I don't know where you do cockfighting. I'm not into that kind of stuff.
We'll have to find a cocksman to explain it.
Exactly. But what I promise you, two gentlemen here, or your four gentlemen, that you will have by the next couple of months, I will produce Francis Rosenstiel, picture of him holding his prized cock, and I will also find your bill of sale. I will get you the bill of sale that shows all the cocks that he purchased for the cockfighting ring.
oh my God.
A very experienced cocksman.
Needless to say, the house of repute, I thought there was some other poor chap on West Confederate Avenue ended up being a relative of mine.
Oh my God. So we're going to get Francis Rosenstiel's cock pics.
Yes.
Oh
yes,
my God. This is crazy. This is crazy.
He's an angry rooster.
Now I know why you was laughing.
Wait, I'm sorry. Say that, Cam?
I said, now I know why you was laughing so much before the show started. You knew this was coming.
Yeah, a little dress rehearsal.
I've heard these stories before.
I don't remember hearing this one.
Oh, this one I told them to keep for
especially when you said poultry. I come from a poultry town.
Well, no, we weren't laughing. No, that's not why we were laughing at that. We were just laughing at your stories.
We knew it was coming.
You're a great storyteller.
So anyway, but all jokes aside, my grandfather completely adored my grandmother. They courted. They have three beautiful sons. My uncles and my father. My grandfather. I'm going to tell you the clean version of the story. My grandfather.
Why start now?
Well, I know. I got to clean it up here.
Go ahead.
So we as we come down Lefevre Street and we turn right onto, is it East Confederate Avenue? Towards Culp's Hill.
Yeah.
East Confederate.
Yeah.
Okay. I bet you don't know this, but there are three bridges. There are three bridges that are there, okay? There's the first bridge as soon as you turn on to East Confederate.
Right.
Okay.
Then the second.
And then there are three bridges. And my grandfather always said, you know how much the girl liked you by how many bridges down you would go. And so if you walk down to the third bridge, which I assume my grandfather did with my grandmother, to see the blue flowers, and my grandfather loved Jack in the Pulpits, took her down there and courted her and probably had a little bit of private time to hold hands and kiss at that third bridge.
Is that a flower, Jack in the Pulpit?
It is. Jack in the Pulpit's a flower.
Okay.
I still have one at 115 North Stratton Street. It pops up every year. It's like my grandfather's looking at me every year. He pops up. It's up right now.
And then like halfway through the year, he's like, I can't look at this anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
And he goes.
Yeah,
goes away.
But that's why I remember my grandfather saying that, like, that was a romantic walk down to the third bridge. I'm sure a lot of people that were the clean version, not the ones that go up on Neal Avenue, the Lost Avenue. This is the clean version of walking down and holding hands.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's nice.
Yep.
So okay, you gave me 17 pages of things to talk about here. So I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna pick out some stuff, and you just rattle off the story. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Mamie Eisenhower.
My grandmother was a seamstress. She not only did all the sewing for Leroy Smith and the Hall of Presidents, all the outfits, but my grandmother was the personal seamstress to Mamie Eisenhower.
Dignitaries like senators. Name some of the famous people that he.
Well, we talked about JFK.
Right.
There was another Kennedy that was a senator. They took over the battlefield.
Teddy.
No, it wasn't Teddy.
Robert?
I said Senator. Nah, it wasn't Robert. It wasn't. Maybe
It
that's the
wasn't
senator.
one of the
It wasn't one of
famous
the
ones?
the famous. But John Stennis, I think he was a senator. He took over First Lady Imelda, excuse me. So
Imelda Marcos.
But
A couple of foreigners, right?
Yeah. I had heard the rumor they took over, Menachem Begin. I'd heard the rumor.
Menachem Begin.
But I wasn't able to verify that. Begin, Sadat, and Jimmy Carter in 1976, 77.
Right. But no, didn't you have a picture of them?
I did, but it wasn't. I don't know for sure that my grandfather took him over. I know Bob Prosperi, I believe, took over President Carter. And I believe I had heard the rumor he took over Menachem Begin. I wasn't able to verify that.
What's the story, the Patton story in World War II?
Okay. So I told you my grandfather never missed a day of school in his life.
Right.
He never missed a day of teaching. But there was a time, according to my one uncle, where my grandfather was sick in the military. He had to go to the infirmary for a little bit. He was laying in the infirmary, and lo and behold, guess who comes walking through the door? Not to see my grandfather, but to see a friend, General Patton. So he saw Patton. I don't know that he actually really spoke to Patton, but his bedmate, the person that was next to him, was a friend of General Patton. A little side story. Did you know that Patton was in Gettysburg?
Mm-hmm.
And do you know where he stayed when he rolled his tanks through town? Do you know where he stayed?
I don't know where he stayed.
He stayed at the old Quality and Larson's. First day's battle.
On around Lee's headquarters.
Yep. He spent the night there.
Wow. So they should have saved the hotel because that now is historic.
Well, he did. I believe Eisenhower stayed there. The oldest surviving widow of the Battle of Gettysburg, she stayed there. That was one of those. He was 70. She was. Yeah. But she stayed there. The old Quality and Larson. So that has some history to it.
And it's gone now.
Gone
with the wind. How about dinosaur prints?
One of my favorite, and I think we have a picture of it. One of my favorite places on the battlefield to go when I was younger. My grandfather, again, he always liked to tell you what was going on. We wanted to show you. Now there was, you may or may not know, that there was a quarry, I believe called the Trossel Quarry, that was in York Springs. A lot of that granite came from the Trossel Quarry, but as they were setting this, the bridge as you come down is Confederate Avenue. It'd be South Confederate. What would that avenue be as you're coming towards Big Round Top?
South Confederate.
South Confederate, right? There's some dinosaur prints. Have you ever seen them?
Yeah.
Yep. So there's a picture of my grandfather showing that. He always liked to. What my grandfather was best at was he was best at human interest stories. He was best at like telling the story. Some people get bored out of their skulls about how many people died, how many people were wounded, this, that. What's a corps? What's a brigade? He wanted to tell the human interest stories, and he wanted to show you some of those on the battlefield. We have plenty to talk about with those.
Sure. Cavalry versus cavalry.
As I told you before, my grandfather was very, 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 very into being a spelling teacher. Remember that earlier? We talked about Yale and Brown and all those. What drove him nuts was when people would come to the battlefield. The first thing would drive him nuts would be like, somebody shows up and says, "Where's the battlefield?" I'm sure you get that every day. Where's the battlefield?
Don't even get me started.
Where's the battlefield?
Yes.
Where are the bathrooms? Where's the battlefield? Is this where the bus store
Where's
starts?
the entrance to the battlefield?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what drove him nuts was when people would say Calvary Field. He said, "God damn it." He said, "Calvary is where Jesus Christ was."
I was just gonna.
He says where Jesus Christ was.
He would say, "God damn it, that's where Jesus Christ."
I've been trying to keep it clean. He loved.
He would say, "God damn it, that's where Jesus Christ died."
That's funny. It's Calvary. He would say Calvary. But ironically, I'll tell you a little side story. Ironically, I was going through some stuff in my attic, which is where my grandfather had a lot of stuff.
Sure.
And I found one of his old slides, like the carousel. And he spelled cavalry right the first time, but the second time he wrote it down, he skipped all the L's. There was a C-A-V-A-R.
So cavalry.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know. He was trying to be from Massachusetts.
Cavalry.
Error. Yeah. So, but no,
Where did Custis cavalry fight?
Yeah. He loved the Kirsten School. The students said he always liked to curse in school.
Wow.
Like he would always emphasize, "Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead." He would the damn, or
well, that gives kids a thrill. Kids love that,
it
you know.
It does.
All right. How about let's see. And by the way, it's very simple. If you do get confused, Cam, are you? Do you get confused by cavalry and calvary?
Sometimes
Microphone to the mouth, please.
I'll go cavalry all the time. That's
You
how
say
I
you
say
do
it.
say cavalry. You say it the wrong way.
That's a good Southern boy right there.
Yeah.
No, mountain boy. There's
Mountain boy.
a difference.
Okay. Now, so do you know the difference? Like, do
Yeah.
you catch yourself saying it?
Well, yeah, I know there's a difference, but it's just how I say it.
Lentz, how about you?
Cavalry.
You say it the right way.
It does.
Cav, horse, cavallo. Okay.
Yeah, well, I've been helped to try to get
In
say
Spanish-
right, but it never comes out right.
Okay. No, I know, but I'm just saying, if if you ever need a way to think of it, that's what it comes from. Cav is horse. It's all right. What was the other one that I wanted to ask you about? Okay, 3 hooves up.
Oh, great story. My grandfather always liked sharing his stories on the battlefield, and I hope I can share with you the getting stuck on the battlefield later on. But
What? Just tell us now.
well, no, I'll 2 stories in one.
He
okay?
wants to do another episode.
He wants to.
No.
We'll have you back on, man.
I'll tell you
Jeez.
2 stories in one.
Okay, go.
So my grandfather would like to share some of the stories that when he's out. All of us, we go out, we talk about work, right?
Yeah.
This is what happened. Can you believe that Sally did this or Jeffrey did this, or can you believe that some guy showed up at school with a gorilla outfit on and scaring people? so anyway, some little junior was out on the bus tour, and my grandfather always liked to share with people as you drive around the monuments, some of the brigade monuments. You might see like the base will either be square or circular.
Right.
You know what that means?
Yes.
If it's square, it's Union.
Yes.
Circular. Okay. So my grandfather would hit the basics: square, Union, circular, Confederate. Mm-hmm. He would come up to one of the equestrian statues and say, "Hey, look, this is another learning point. See that, General? All 4 hooves are down. You know what that means? At Gettysburg, that general was not wounded. The general didn't die. Got through unscathed. One paw up. One hoof. Do you know what that means? You know what it means.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
He was wounded.
Well, 2. What does that mean?
That means that he was killed.
He was killed. Well, some little jack monkey decided to say to my grandfather, "Well, what happens if 3 hooves are up?" And my grandfather's like, "Well, the son of a bitch would fall over because it's really heavy, right?" So another little out on the battlefield story. John.
See, that was my grandfather's sense of humor too. It's just that dry, obvious,
Well, I heard another one. It wasn't my grandfather, but there was one-armed Bob, and let's talk about him for just a second.
Who?
One-armed Bob.
Okay,
That's
I
my
like it already.
We're gonna talk about beer later, but my grandfather's brother was one-armed Bob. Bob lost. Get Cam's soundbite ready. You ready for this?
Okay, wait, hold on. Okay,
one-armed Bob was in an automobile accident in Hanover 100 years ago. And no, wrong one. Wrong
okay.
one.
Which one?
He was in an automobile accident. Guess what hit him?
What hit him?
Cue it up. You know what hit him?
Oh.
Cue it up.
Here we go.
They tried to outrun the train. They tried to outrun a train, and what happened was my grandfather's Bob, lost his arm. So he's one-armed Bob.
Okay.
But one-armed Bob is a battlefield guide, right? So one-armed Bob's out talking about.
How does he point?
I guess with his other finger. I don't
Well,
know.
what if he's driving?
He's not driving. I don't know. Maybe he's
like,
driving.
over there.
Anyway, he's pretty proficient with one arm,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Sorry.
so anyway, Bob. I'm telling a Bob story real quick. We'll get back to my grandfather. But Bob's out talking about name some cannons on the battlefield. Some types of cannons.
3-inch ordnance.
Okay.
Parrot rifle.
Parrot's good. What else do we
Okay.
have out there?
Got one
Napoleon's.
named Cora.
Okay, Napoleons. Okay, so Bob, one-armed Bob's out talking to he's out on the battlefield talking about these cannons, right? Napoleons and Parrots and whatever. And the kid says, he points at this cannon and he says, "Is that a Parrot?" And Moana Bob says, "No, dummy, that's a blackbird. There was a blackbird sitting on the blackbird that was sitting on the cannon." I said, "No, dummy, that's a blackbird. That's not a parrot." little fun story, but anyway. So I have to share with you a story that I've heard 1,000 times, not only from my grandfather, but also from battlefield guys like Terry Fox, Miss Novotny, Bob Prosperi. I can go on. I can name them all, but. My grandfather said, you don't get paid too much money being a battlefield guide if you don't tip, if you don't get a tip, right? So when you're on here, you're doing your free tours, you get out of the car tour, you're saying, hey, look, tip your guides. If you do a good job, tip your guides.
If you liked your ride, please tip your guide.
And don't park on the other side of the road.
And park where legal.
Or park where legal. And don't wear flip-flops because if you walk through, you're going to get hurt.
You're going to get hurt, yeah, and I don't want to hear it.
Unless you're Eric.
Unless you're Eric.
Strong feet.
Eric or one of our listeners, Paula, she made it through unscathed. She challenged me. She's like, "I'm from North Carolina."
Yep.
I was like, "Okay."
I hear you. Let's
go.
And
she didn't have one scratch on her feet. I
have cousin Corey from North Carolina. He's a good guy. He loves the battle, and he's tough as can be, too.
And they like going on the barefoot,
Tar Heels.
Tar Heels. That's what she said. She's like, they don't call us Tar Heels for nothing. It's like,
favorite basketball team because of my cousin Corey. But anyway, so my grandfather said,
"What?"
Okay.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So... Talking about basketball?
I don't know what you're saying.
So my grandfather said, we got to work for tips. We got to make some money. Okay?
Yeah.
Well, when he took President Kennedy over the battlefield, he wasn't trying to get a tip, but he wanted to give everything about Massachusetts. What's their little avenue by, is it Webb Avenue? The little avenue that isn't any longer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, my grandfather said that when he was in Webb Avenue, somewhere in there's a monument that has California on it.
Yes, the California Brigade.
So he would get all the Californians together and take a little picture, and he's like, man, that's got to be another $5 I'm getting in the way of tip, right? Just for fun.
Sure.
Okay. So what do you do when you're a battlefield guide? You try to, if you're in sales, whatever you do, you try to understand who it is. I look at Cam, I say, you know what? If I'm taking Cam over to the battlefield, I'm going to talk about West Virginia. My grandfather gets this tour. He looks at the license plate. It says New York. Okay, so you would think that the battlefield, he's driving around the battlefield, the whole battle, he's talking about New York.
Sure.
Talking about New York this, New York that, New York this, New York that. He gets to General Lee and Traveler, and he says, you know what? General Lee was a fine commander, but I'm going to tell you between you and I think he was a Benedict Arnold, is what he said. That's my personal opinion. He said, and the gentleman from New York said, my license plate may say New York, but I'm a good Southern boy. I'm going to ask you to kindly get out of this car. So my grandfather had to walk he had to walk back. And of course, it's like when your grandparents say it was snowing and it was uphill both ways.
Yeah.
Well, the Sahara Desert was air conditioned compared to this walk home. My grandfather, but you learn. Like you keep your you keep your opinions to yourself
without praise or censure is what they tell them.
Correct.
Yes.
So a little funny story.
He was a Benedict Arnold, though.
Yes. That's what my grandfather felt.
No, I agree. Okay. I got another one here that I just saw. Oh! Tell me about how he got his booze during the Prohibition.
Well, as I had said, that my grandfather graduated in 1932. You had Prohibition going on in that era, maybe a little bit after. So what he did was, I was listening to this audio clip. You guys know who Michael Berkner is? Gettysburg College. I don't know if you know Michael Berkner.
He was on town council.
Exactly. So Michael Berkner, who teaches history, I believe, at Gettysburg College, had one of his students in like 1994 or 95 go interview my grandfather.
Okay.
And that clip can be found if you want to hear a 50-minute interview on my grandfather at college. But in that, he talks about how he would get somebody to drive him down to Emmitsburg, Maryland, and get moonshine. Some lady down there was selling moonshine, and then there was some other guy that I think had like moonshine in the back. You just go in and you open them and get the moonshine and knock it out. They had that, like I told you, they had that speakeasy in my grandfather's basement.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So that was you weren't joking. That was really like a speakeasy.
Yeah.
Like the neighborhood knew, like you.
Well, I think it was friends. Okay. It wasn't like It wasn't like we were making millions of dollars like Eric's going to make on those
business card holders. Yeah, they're great. He really should get selling those, ladies and gentlemen. Take a look at this right here.
So can I pull it all together with One Arm Bob and my grandfather?
Sure.
All right. So we talk about beer. Okay. We talk about alcohol. There are very few times that you would see my grandfather when he was at home in his side yard or his backyard where he didn't have a beer sitting next to him. I remember Pabst Blue Ribbon. I think Old Redding was the first one. Pabst Blue Ribbon, Coors Light, Keystone Light, Genesee. Okay, so of course they're good. But I remember at age 3, that was the Pabst Blue Ribbon era.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there was in New Jersey on the Parkway. It was it was the Garden State Parkway, I think. The Pabst factory was right there, and we used to drive by it and had the big Pabst Blue Ribbon on it. We'd take that on the way to the shore.
Exactly. So 70s.
For you, 80s, it was 80s for me. You're a little bit older than I am.
Well, anyway, so One-Armed Bob would come to see my grandfather. Well, I knew he was coming because I was told somebody's coming in the side door and it's One-Armed Bob.
Don't stare at him. Yeah.
No, you can stare at him. I didn't care. But my job was to grab the kitchen chair, slide it over to the freezer, open the freezer, grab a chilled glass, maybe 8 ounce in size, drop 2 ice cubes in, crack the beer open, and pour the beer, the Pabst Blue Ribbon, into the glass for One-Armed Bob.
Sure.
Because it's tough.
When you're one-armed.
But you get smart. You know what happens with cold beer, and it foams up, and you have to get the suds. So about age 3 or 4, I was nipping the beer too. So this is an era. What I found out about my grandfather was he was super generous, super kind, and everybody loved him.
Yeah.
They would deliver beer to the beer distributor even after they stopped delivering beer. Like there was a time when beer distributors said we're not doing it anymore. They would still deliver beer to him. And you just have to pick up the phone and say Sheeds, whatever, and there it was. He'd always tip them. My grandfather would always tip people. He'd always tip the beer delivery guys. He would tip. Who tips their trash person? The trash collector. Anybody?
Nope.
My grandfather would have a case of beer every winter out there, a couple cases of beer wrapped up, and he would have $20 bills taped to the inside of the trash cans. Everybody I talked to always said my grandfather was super generous. I mean, I experienced that as
I've heard of people doing the trash thing around Christmas time. Is that when he would do it?
Yeah. He would do it other times too. But that was
like once a month or something.
Yeah, he'd have some beer out back.
But aren't they all union? So like they're like making out like bandits.
They are,
Yeah,
but anyway.
But still, he appreciates it. That's nice though.
So yeah, but I always recollect him drinking, having a beer.
Well, so let's get a little personal then. Yeah. You mentioned that you were 3 or 4 years old, and your job was to get up on the chair and get some beer for One-Armed Bob. You lived with your grandfather. You lived at that house.
I did. As I mentioned, my mom and dad got divorced when I was 5 and spent a lot of time there.
And neither one of them liked you, and they said, go with Grandpa.
They loved me. they both love me unconditionally now.
Do you have any siblings?
I don't have any full...
You have halves.
Halves.
Okay.
I have halves, steps to the 4th power. I'm joking. I have halves and steps. But
you grew up basically at what age? From what age to what age were you living there?
About age 6, mostly on till maybe like 11 or 12. Lived a little bit with my dad. Lived with my mom for a little bit. And when my grandmother passed away, I said my grandfather and grandmother lived together for 50 years. Married.
Sure. Yeah.
I felt compelled to move back in with my grandfather.
Keep him company
until I graduated from college.
Was it also some kind of maybe relief for you? Was it just tense at home or something, or was it just like you just wanted to do something nice?
You mean like when I was older, or do you mean
I don't know? Younger? Like what made you decide?
Well, younger it was the convenience of I went to school at St. Francis in St. Francis
sure.
Church. The whole. Okay.
Are you're Catholic?
I am. Yep, born Catholic.
Okay.
Haven't been to church in a while. Don't tell anybody.
It's only for weddings or funerals.
I was there for my son's graduation and some other stuff. But I'll tell you how I named my son. But anyway, when I was younger, it was just a convenience because my mom and dad worked heavy hours. My grandparents weren't working, so they could walk me to school, walk me home, do whatever. But I had a good relation. I never got anything less than an A in spelling. My grandfather was always the teacher. He loved felt tip markers, and
Yeah, we were talking.
he would tape all these, like my spelling, like you'd have 22 weeks of spelling. They'd be taped to the kitchen door, and he would just go and he would pluck this one down, and every morning for breakfast, he would hit me up on the 20 words. And so, I mean, I do misspell words from time to time, but it's rare.
Yeah.
He was always the teacher.
Yeah. It's funny because my grandfather, my father's father, had a love for words and etymology. Did he do that with you? Do you know what that is? No. The study of word, like for example,
I know what edamame is.
No, it's not edamame. Okay, so when I was a senior in high school, we learned about etymology,
Right.
and it's the study of words. So the teacher was like, okay, this is what it is, and as you go through life, I want you to think of this, and if you figure out a word by using this, come in. So I was on my way to school that day, and this was 8th period, so it's early in the morning.
Yeah.
As I'm going to school, and I'm listening to Howard Stern, and he had a transvestite on.
Right.
And as I'm driving, I'm thinking of the word transvestite. I'm like, transvestite. Trans-American Airlines was across America. Transcontinental goes across the continent. Cross. Yeah. And then I remember I went to Catholic school and the priests wore vestments.
Right.
And you have a vest that you wear. And so I'm like, vestments. And then ite is, I knew it's someone who is or does or something like that. And so I was like, oh, I figured it out. Now I know why they call them transvestites now.
You broke it down.
Yeah, I broke it down. So I couldn't wait all day long, right? And then finally I get in there 8th period and I raise my hand and I go, Mrs. Halou. She says, yeah. And I said, I got some etymology for you. And she's like, what? And I said, transvestite. Trans, to cross, vestments, clothing, ite, somebody who is or does. And she like she like looked at me like, you son of a bitch. Like, why would you of all the words, right? But I was like genuine and I was sincere.
That's
and
legit.
she like broke a smile and she's like, well, you got it.
Yeah.
So I get that from my grandfather, that love of a language and stuff like that, but also the felt tip pens.
Oh, he loved those things.
He had so many of them.
All grandparents do.
I don't know why.
I don't know.
Is it?
It wasn't like you were getting high smelling.
No, those were the thicker markers.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
I don't know, but it's funny that when you said that immediately, I was like, I was thinking of my grandfather, and he got those particular ones. There's like black ones that were like I don't know if they ever started as a point, but I guess he wrote so much that they were always more rounded.
Yes.
And it was like black, and then it had a little white plastic at the tip, and then the felt tip. Is that the one?
That's the one?
Yeah. Oh man, it was like that particular brand.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was about him, but they loved it. So okay, so you lived with him. And did it get you involved in any things? Like you were part of Company K, weren't you?
I was. It's a tradition. To rewind a little bit, you take it back to 1960. Have you ever heard of? I know you have. You had somebody who was on the other day talking about the brickyards in Coster Avenue.
Yeah.
Okay. So you know where Coster Avenue is, where the mural is.
Yeah.
Well, my two uncles, my Uncle Mike, my Uncle Tim, and my dad, Stephen Sheeds, they were the Coster cadets. Not Custer, like,
Coster. Yeah.
Right? And so, and maybe Eric has, I don't know if he does, there they are in the newspaper, 1960. They're reenacting a battle. And my grandfather, thoroughly enjoyed that. I couldn't put my finger on it, but Eric Dorr, you guys know Eric Dorr, of course.
Sure, yeah.
Very well.
I keep trying to get him to come on.
Yeah, he should come on.
He's always busy.
He should, yeah. So my grandfather loved Company K, the 1st Pennsylvania Reserve, and so he decided he was going to help me muster my company. And so a bunch of us little rugrats, I was a corporal. I was,
sure.
That's how I am.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a colonel, but at least I got a couple bars, right?
Yeah.
So I was never a private. I was a corporal.
Yeah,
right?
you started as a corporal. Good for you.
But we walked in the parades, and I had the uniform and the kepi and the whole deal, and fond memories. I remember that. So he would try to instill history whenever he could.
And so, explain to people what Company K was in your case.
So Company K, First Pennsylvania Reserve. Little sidebar. There are a couple monuments that were missing on the battlefield.
Yeah.
Okay. We talk about was it Gibbons and Crawford.
I was going to get to that after this. So perfect.
I'm reading your mind, man.
Look at that.
It must be the name. We can read each other's mind, right?
Right. Same name, same mind.
But the same with the Company K. And my grandfather, we had a Samuel Sheets, Sheets, which is actually a relative, just different. He decided, well, we're not going to change shits to Sheeds, but it's going to be Sheets.
Right.
He thought maybe someday he'd have this corporate empire of sheets all over the place. But where I'm going
someday I'll have gas stations.
Yeah. So there was a Sheets that was considered a deserter behind enemy lines. He had a little bit of time to visit relatives, and he got caught behind enemy lines. And then there was another Sheeds. I believe it was a David Sheeds that was in Company K. But where I'm going with it is, my grandfather wanted us to be Company K because there were Sheeds family in that company.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah. So you had a lineage or a heritage to connection there. Okay. So just a couple of other things here. He ran a historical society out of his house.
Yep. So has anybody here been to the Adams County Historical Society?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. All right. So, well, at one time, I guess there was the birth of the Adams County Historical Society. Okay. And then there was the rebirth in like 1940, give or take a day. Okay. Well, the Adams County Historical Society became incorporated in that. We talked about Hugh McElhaney earlier with the Gettysburg Times, and we talked about my grandfather, Colonel Sheeds. They were two of the four founding, I'll say founding, but they're two of the four members that incorporated the Adams County Historical Society.
Okay.
So far, so good?
Sure, good. Yeah.
So, but what happens is my grandfather liked to think he had his own historical society in the basement. He had other things in the basement, but we talk. I like the basement. The basement's a good place to be. Beer down there, some other stuff. But anyway, he had filing cabinets upon filing cabinets upon filing cabinets in the basement, all A through Z. Whatever you wanted to know, what you know about. We'll go down, we'll pull it out, here it is, okay? And so everybody would know to either call 334-3950 and ask my grandfather questions, or they would stop by and they would, just like I let you borrow my grandfather.
Yeah.
He would do the same thing. He would let you borrow the manila folder with the information with the intent of you bringing it back.
Sure.
And if he didn't know the answer, one thing you learned, I learned at an early age, if you don't know an answer,
look it up.
Look it up. Don't make it up. Look it up.
Yeah.
Or say, I'm not 100% sure, but this is what I think.
My sixth grade teacher, she was the first teacher where if we raised our hand and said, what does misrepresent mean? She wouldn't tell you. She would say, she'd point to the dictionary in the back of the room and she would say, go look it up.
Right.
And we were like, come on, just tell me. Because we're like in the middle of writing or something, And it was annoying then. I'm sure it was annoying for you as a kid if you were to ask a question and he would tell you to go look it up, right? Because you just want to know, and it's just like,
and you can't get your phone out and you can't say, "Oh, well, what's this?"
We didn't have them then.
Yeah,
but
right, exactly.
The lesson that I'm glad she did that. I'm sure you're glad your grandfather did that because now you know how to find answers to things where most other people who had parents that just did everything for them are too lazy and they're worse lived. Tits on a bull. Okay. So Carrie Sheeds' house on the Historic Registry, 1975. He got that put on the registry?
He did. So he very much so did and made a move on that. It's a very important place. It's obviously a family house. Absolutely.
Now, everybody loved the Colonel, except maybe not so much because he helped Mr. Ottenstein with the National Tower.
Yeah, you're
Stein?
Right. Ottenstein.
Oh, I always thought it was Steen.
Right. So check this out. I found the article, and maybe it pops up.
The National Tower, though, explain to everybody for those who don't know.
Ottenstein Tower. Mr. Ottenstein comes from maybe New York.
So he's a carpetbagger.
He's a high roller. Comes to town and says, "You know what? I want to see this battlefield from 100 some feet up in the air.
300 and 7 feet.
307 feet.
Yes.
Okay, so check this out. So now he wants to build it. And we talked about, if somebody's knocking on the front door, side door. My grandfather gets a knock on the side door. Mr. Ottenstein shows up.
So somebody said,
Go
Bob,
see Colonel.
you got to go to the side door, and then he'll answer.
Yes.
Okay.
So he shows up, and my grandmother answers the door and says, "Well, Colonel's out back drinking a beer." So he walks back with my grandmother. My grandfather says to my grandmother, "Hey, could you go get Mr. Rottenstein a beer?" They sit out back, and Mr. Rottenstein pitches my grandfather on how my grandfather could help to make the historical accuracy of where this is and where this is and figure out where this is.
Consult.
Tell the story, right? Wasn't very popular. Was not very popular by the guy.
Now there is it might still be on YouTube, but many years ago I found a clip on YouTube from 60 Minutes that did a piece on the tower.
Really?
Yes, and all the controversy around it. And it's fascinating to watch because they're driving down Steinway Avenue and like remember the Howard Johnson?
Oh, sure.
So the Howard Johnson was there. The diorama was the Prince of Peace Church or something like that at the time. And they're going to, and the KFC was a KFC. Yeah. That's been
Hardee's,
a KFC
Hardee's
since forever.
There,
there was a Hardee's there, that's gone. Pickett's Buffet, and so they're just driving down that little strip there, and it's like, wow, look at that's still there, that's still there, Yeah. But Morley Safer, I think, was the correspondent who he was still on when we were kids. Right. He was the correspondent who did the thing, and there they are standing at the angle. What battery is that? It's on the tip of my tongue. What?
Cushing.
To the right of Cushing, at the inner angle. What's that?
Oh, that's Arnold.
Arnold, thank you. Arnold's battery is on the right on the inner angle.
And one answer length. One answer length. That's the new nickname.
That's all we need is one. So he's it's him and I want to say the governor of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And they're standing there by the battery, and in the background you see the tower there. And the governor says, "I would be in favor of this tower if you dug a 300-foot hole and put it in it." And it was a 307-foot tower. And that was the joke he was making there. But it's really interesting because then they have Mr. Ottenstein talking to, I don't know, like the Kiwanis Club or something like that. And he's saying, and this is something that repeated during the casino thing. Right. He's basically saying, he's like, what crime have I committed? Yes. Like, I've done nothing wrong and you people want to kill me.
Right.
And that is just so Gettysburg.
It is. And my grandfather actually liked it.
Yeah.
He gave a good perspective.
Of course, it's a classroom in a sky. It was.
Yeah, but he has some concerns. I'll tell you some concerns. But, well, anyway, just a little sidebar. I think the world, I told you about I have cousins from North Carolina.
Sure.
Brent, Reagan, Corey Futch. Last name Futch. Good.
Futch.
Futch. Futch. It's good. It's Futch. There's some Futches that have been around.
Are there Futches up here?
Not necessarily up here, but they fought. They fought. I believe they fought here.
Yeah.
John Futch.
There you go.
Oh, John Futch. Okay.
Okay, but there's some Futches. So my cousins always come up, and my grandfather adored my cousins. They adored them because there's wild rebels from the South. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I remember my cousins used to tease me and get me all worked up.
Because you're a wimpy Yankee?
No, just because I was younger. Because I was younger.
Oh, because you were younger. I gotcha, yeah.
So I remember them telling me that they were going to go up and they were going to climb. They were going to be on top of the Ottenstein Tower, and they were going to climb the flagpole to get to the top to touch I'm thinking, my God, they're going to fall over. I believed them.
You got all worried?
Yeah. They're the same ones that would tell me that the war wasn't over. The Civil War wasn't over back when they were 12, 13 years,
yeah.
They know that now.
Yeah.
But I think they do.
I hope you know it now.
May I share a cute story about them?
Sure.
All right. So when I was about 9 years old, they're probably 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, somewhere around there. They told me we're down in you ever hear of Wilmington, North Carolina? Fort Fisher's down there, and there's Wrightsville Beach, and then there's a little town called Burgall, right? Burgall, a little small town just outside of Wilmington. Well, my cousins lived on this farm. It wasn't a farm; they lived on a bunch of land, and they had these hunting dogs, right? And they had a whole bunch of beagles out back, and remember this dirt road, and I'm back there hanging out with them, and they said to me, they said, you know what? I said, what? They said, we still have slaves from the Battle of Gettysburg that are underneath where the beagles were. and they were gonna put me down with the Beagles. I never ran. I was like Forrest Gump. I never ran as fast as I did. I just run up that dirt road. I thought my damn cousins were gonna put me. I mean, but at 12 years old, you know what
12,
I mean?
12 years old.
This is 1980.
Yeah,
You know,
you were 12-year-olds were naive back
we
then.
didn't know
Yeah,
that.
they didn't know everything like they know now. All right, so there's a whole lot of stuff in here that we're not going to get to, but we are gonna. I guarantee you, people are going to like this this episode, and they're going to want to hear more about the Colonel, and they're going to want to hear more from you. So, just a couple of other things here. Everyone knew him; he felt like a rock star. Beer stories. We got that. Brother Bob, Prohibition. Stickler for spelling. We got that. Okay, my teachers loved Colonel Sheeds. Okay. Walking sword story.
Great story. So there are two versions of the story, but to be quick. So we all know about Carrie Sheeds and Wheelock. Okay, and hiding the sword. He hid the sword, and she hid the sword in the dress. Well, my grandfather used to try to scare not only his sons, but scare me. He would talk about the walking sword. And so I'd be up in my bedroom, which is the same room he was born in, and he would say, the walking sword, now I'm on the first step. Now I'm on the second step. And I'd be like, oh, shit. And I'm like, all right, there are 15 steps. I mean, I know it's coming. Now I'm coming down the hall.
Got some time.
Now I'm coming to get you. And I'm like, right. I'm like, high note it. But he would do that, and he would scare you. He would try to scare you. May I confess my fear? I have one fear. I have a fear of birds.
Really?
I'm slightly scared of birds.
Why?
My grandfather, he was such a great storyteller. When I was like 5 or 6 years old, he told me about how these birds would swoop down and they would attack our pet cat. I'm thinking, holy hell. Birds swoop and attack, and then he showed me. Then on top of it, he substantiated the story by showing me damn movie The Birds. Alfred Hitchcock, The Birds. So I'm thinking to myself, we have these wild ass birds flying down, pecking. So I was exactly. To this day, I'm still a little leery of birds because of my grandfather's wonderful storytelling.
Oh God, that's good stuff. All right, so he had no athletic skill, but he tried.
He tried. He did his best. I love sports. I could talk about sports all day. I played sports all my life, but he tried. When he was in his 70s, he would do his best. But I remember he would always talk about being in triple. In baseball, you have the pros, AAA, AA, single A, and he would try to throw me a ball as best he could. If I drop it, I'd go from the pros to AAA, AA, back to AAA. And that's what I remember. But he tried. He didn't have any arm. He called himself the chief cook and water boy. That's what he called himself. And he said he was the assistant to the assistant to the assistant water boy in high school. He wasn't even water sucks. He really wasn't even Adam Sandler. He was the assistant to the assistant.
He was the assistant to the assistant. Oh man, he was funny. Okay, Colonel's quotes here. It's later than you think. What's that?
Yeah, he always said that to his students. That it was just that was his saying. It's later than you think.
In other words, you don't have time. Quit fucking around.
Yeah. You better step it up.
Yeah. Okay.
And another quote that he had always said. He was for the bicentennial when it rolled around here. He had said that the Union was born in Philadelphia in 1776, but was preserved at Gettysburg in 1863. That was one of his favorite sayings. I do. I'm a sidebar a little bit, but his biggest worry was that people were going to forget about him.
Yeah, and
so when I hear stories, and I have one last story if we're wrapping up. I have one last story I have a story to have something to give you guys. But one last story that I remember, people, they just loved my grandfather, the way he taught. He would have his saber. For a while, he had saber in the school. And then he had to go to like a stick.
Yeah, back in the day when you were allowed.
Give him the cold steel. But anyway, one year, last story about my grandfather, my favorite story. Somebody drew on cardboard, big pieces of cardboard. They drew Mussolini. And they had Hitler and Toto. Okay, on these
Tojo.
Tojo, yeah. It's getting late.
The dog from Wizard of Oz.
Toto. Yeah, him. Right?
I don't think we're in Kansas anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway,
it's like we got all these dictators and a dog.
And a
Cairn Terrier.
How do you know it wasn't a dog, right? It's my story. So anyway, these the enemy was up in front. So he had a student dress in Civil War garb and had a gun, legitimate gun with a bayonet fixed to it.
Sure.
The student goes running up and he goes to stab Mussolini.
Mm-hmm.
And he got Mussolini, but we all know how thin cardboard is.
Right.
Put the bayonet through the chalkboard. It was stuck. There was a hole in the chalkboard, I swear to you, for years. For years, he put the bayonet through the chalkboard.
Oh my God, I love these stories.
I think I have those posters up in the attic. If I find them, I'll bring them in.
With the Hitler and Mussolini.
I do.
Oh,
they're like little character ones.
Would you give us a tour of the attic that we could do a video for that maybe I can cut into this at the end of this or something?
Sure. I mean, it's pretty messy.
Well, I mean, you might have to go in and like pull out some things or something. I mean, attics are messy. People know that. It would just be cool to see.
There's some cool collections up there.
Well, listen, there's a lot more that we didn't get to on this thing here, and we're going to
have something for you guys real quick before we wrap up.
Oh, okay. So you actually wrote Toto on here.
Yeah, did I? Wow.
It says bayonet and Toto.
Tojo. Well, listen, I do listen to your show. I love your show. I thank you so much for all that you guys have done for myself and my family getting us together.
Very important.
Do you know what May 15th is? The month of May 15th?
Well, I'll tell you, it is the first day of the Matmas season.
That's it.
Yes.
So for every good Matmas, I brought you...
Oh, are you serious?
I brought you gifts. So follow me. Okay, this is something you guys need to hear. One for you, Eric. Okay.
Are you trying to sell to us right now?
No. And this is for you. Now, I understand you're doing weird things up with, according to Joseph with a Z. I'd hope that you don't hang my grandfather's picture upside down.
No.
But it's just I just printed it off the internet. But it's
framed. We're gonna hang this in the studio here.
I don't think my grandfather has his tongue out in that one.
No.
Yeah, just something.
The look on his face says, "Oh shit, I didn't realize there was a camera here when I had my tongue out just before."
Exactly.
This is great.
Can you Photoshop the tongue out, please?
I can put one in. This is fantastic. Let me show the camera here, and we're gonna find a place to put this here in the studio. But there's the pic. It's awesome. Thanks, Maddie.
Yeah, but in the spirit of Matmas, I wanted to give.
No wait. So what is this here in the Hockley and O'Donnell folder? Is it a sales pitch?
Look. No.
Highlights of the bat. Ooh.
From my grandfather's personal collection. This is a start. I'll drop stuff off from time to time. But 34 pages of, and you're welcome to copy it and do what you want. They're just highlights on the left side of.
This would be the highlights that he would do in his tour?
Correct. Okay, so just the highlights. And six finger, not six fingers.
He's a six-fingered man.
Cam.
Two-toed lens.
Yeah.
And on the other side, maybe from time to time you can quiz. These are 100 things that kids should know.
Oh, this is perfect.
For my grandfather. Now, the answer key is not in there. Part of it was on purpose, but no, the honest story is I don't know where the answer key is.
We know the answers.
So there are 100 questions that my grandfather would expect a student to know about the Battle of Gettysburg. I could tell you I'd probably get a 21 on it if I was lucky. But I want you to get your felt tip pens out.
Yeah.
And I want you guys to write in capital letters the answers.
Yes, all caps.
Submit those to Miss Novotny. And if you don't get anything lower than an A minus, you've just
Oh God, we're gonna see her next week too.
Well, she better not quiz us. Who was the Burgess of Gettysburg at the time of the battle? 6 questions for a sticker. Do you know the answer?
Was that the guy from Rocky? Was that Burgess?
Yeah, that's Burgess. Burgess Meredith.
I told you I know my sports.
You certainly know your Burgesses. Oh God, that's funny.
Yeah, so
Funny
enjoy.
stuff.
You're welcome to share with whomever you wish. And I'll get you.
Awesome, man.
I'll get you my
It
grandfather.
is.
My Uncle Tim has the handouts that my grandfather would give. He used to do a mimeograph machine, which is the old school copy machine. You type and then you run it through. We have one of those. If you see there.
Here is what Matt's talking about for the people watching, the first lieutenants watching on the camera there.
Are you giving him the middle finger, man?
No, am I? Oh, no, sorry. I'm trying to get it out of the way. This is his all caps handwriting with the felt
you
tip
go.
pen there.
That's it.
But so we can keep these.
They're yours.
Oh, okay, awesome. Thank you. So this is great. These questions. This is perfect because when I start doing my man on the streets, these are the questions. And then also in the live show when we want to give something away.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask these questions.
There you go.
Well, first I got to look up the answers, but
Exactly.
thank
Guys,
you
it was
very
a pleasure.
much. No, it was great having you on. I'm so glad that you I'm just very glad that you've gotten into the show to the point where you wanted to be a part of it and do this, because this is like I've been wanting to do something about your grandfather and other local people of note for a while, and so this is the first one that we're doing, and hopefully we'll be able to do more.
Well, it means a lot to me. Thank
you. And you know what, I gotta say, I didn't read this all the way through when you first brought these in, and just now while you were talking about something else and I wasn't paying attention, I was skipping ahead and I didn't see before that his biggest worry was that people would forget him.
Yeah.
I don't know how anybody could forget a man like this. And with you doing this and keeping his memory alive like this, believe me, I never met him because I came around. I met you not long after, but after he died.
Yep.
And I mean, the house has the sign still, doesn't it? Colonel Sheeds' house. Yeah.
Colonel Jacob M. Sheeds.
And I just always heard about Colonel Sheeds. I've met former students of him. I've met guides who knew him. There's no way that people could forget a guy like this, and he's just a fascinating guy. And I can't wait to finish watching all those videos of him.
They're great.
Because I just immediately, and I don't know if I said this in the show, but when I told you before, when I first started watching the video, immediately I was like, oh, I get why people like this guy. Like you can't not like this guy unless, of course, he helps consult for the National Tower, which is now down, so everybody can go back to liking him.
That's exactly right. And I'll close on this. He said to me, look, he said, Matt, he said, I can't, jokingly, he said, I can't brag about myself, but you can brag about me. When he was alive, he would say that, and I do like to brag about him. I think the world of him.
Yeah, I never met him, but just from the way you talk about him, I would have too if I had met him, and as much as I possibly can. I think the world of him already, and I can't wait to finish his. If you find his Union notebook, please let me know, because I got to finish his Confederate. I started it, but I haven't finished it.
Yeah,
I'm doing it meticulously, like page by page, word by word.
Very cool.
Anyway, that's it. We're all tired, and our sides are hurting from laughing. And let's just go out with this song once again. And Cam's going to get up and tell us a story about setting a patch of woods on fire back in his hometown. Thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed this. We're going to have Matt back on for other things. So that's it. Have a good one.
Ha 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 ha!